Good evening, everybody, no matter where you're tuning in from, right here in Australia, across the ditch in New Zealand, or right around the world. Welcome to the 7th season of ASR Supercars and the first season to feature the Gen 3 models. That's right, the ZB Commodore and the Ford Mustang GT have found their way down to the development series now, and in their place comes the new S650 Mustang GT and the Chevrolet ZL1 Camaro. Those are the two weapons of choice for the 29 drivers that are signed up for this series. We're probably going to get around about 24 to 25 of those tonight, which is a fantastic turnout here at Winton Motor Raceway for the first of 11 rounds of this year's ASR Supercars Championship. My name is Steve DeVries. Opposite me for, I think, the third or fourth consecutive year in the box is, of course, Benjamin Rhodey Rhodes. Rhodey, there's been a lot of hype building this up over the last 18 months. A lot of work has gone in to these models, with a special thanks, of course, to the crew at HME, or Higginson Media Engineering, 444 Designs, and, of course, Dream Simulation, because they had a very important part to play in these cars as well. And finally, they're on track in anger.
Absolutely. Good evening to everyone watching along at home, although it may not be evening where you are, but good evening to you anyway from where we are. And we've finally got the Gen 3 models on track, and it's really good to see them out there. A lot of work went into these, a lot of the fine tuning and tweaking to get them right where we want them to be, and they're right where we want them to be. And we've got 24, 25 cars lined up on the grid tonight to be the first time that we see the Chevrolet bow tie on the grid in ASR.
Yeah, absolutely. That is the real thing, isn't it? It is the first time we actually do get to see the golden bow tie grace a Supercars grid here in ASR. For many, many years now, it's been Holden and Ford, and in some cases it's even been Nissan, Mercedes and Volvo. Back in the, I think in the third season was the last time we saw those cars, but now in line with what happens in the real world, and that's the whole aim here, isn't it? It's all to be as close to the real world as possible, but without all the little nuances, and I guess, Brody, the important part is without the politics, isn't it? Because that's the important thing that we've been keeping an eye on for the last sort of 18 or so months with Gen 3 in real life. All the politics that went with it. The good part about sim racing is they all go away.
Exactly, yeah. We've got the option to very much pick and choose what we value from the real life format, and also what we've seen that's worked in the past. And like an example of that, despite the fact that the Enduro Cup in real life has seen many fluctuations throughout the years, we've been pretty consistent. Obviously, Bathurst, Sandown, I think from the one year we didn't, and I've always tried to stick to a 3-round format as well. But that's the kind of stuff that we can very much pick and choose where you want to go with it. And to finish off the point you started with, this is going to be my third full season. I did join you from memory partway through 2021, but this is my third season start in the broadcast.
Yes, I was about to say, I was losing my mind trying to work out the math earlier on, because, of course, it's been Supercars in the very, very beginning was, of course, Stairs and Madbird, and I had a couple of commentary stints in between there and then as well. Then it was myself and Hans Brunswick delivering the lion's share of it through 2019, when it was actually known as a Super 2 series back then, and again sort of through 2020. And then it's sort of been you about halfway through 2021, and then all of last year and the year before that. So yes, it is sort of now your third. This is going to be your third full season behind the mic, and we've worked really well as a team over the last couple of years, and I can't wait to sit down with you and call these races across the 11 stops on the calendar. And if we have a look at the calendar, we don't have a picture for you for this one, but I can give you the heads up on what the calendar looks like for this year. So we start here tonight, Winton Motor Raceway. It is a triple header event. There's a little bit of a twist in the tail with this event tonight, so we'll capture more of that in just a few moments' time. Then in 2 weeks, it's normally a 3-week block, but we're trying to squeeze another round in before Easter. So on the 22nd of March, we actually go to Albert Park for a couple of races there. The older layout, the original layout, not the current modern day layout. After Easter, we head across the ditch for the first of 2 occasions this year to the Hamilton Street Circuit. Then back across to the mainland, we head over to the Bend for the West layout. That's in mid-May. We trip to the Barbagallo Raceway in Perth at the end of May. Hidden Valley is the 6th round. Then all the way down to the Gold Coast. So skipping Townsville, heading to the Gold Coast. We haven't been there for a couple of years. That's round 7. Round 8 is Sydney Motorsport Park. And then the international round, which was a popular event last year, that's going to be in the middle of August. We don't have a track just yet. That will be voted on in the coming weeks. And then to close out proceedings, round 10 will be actually I'm just trying to figure it out where it is right here. Actually, round 10 is going to be at Taupo in November, and then the final at Adelaide at the end of November. And you're wondering why there's no Sandown and there's no Bathurst on that calendar? Stick around. There's going to be some announcements made in the Discord about those in the next couple of days, because that's where the Enduro Cup is this year. Got some special things lined up for you in ASR, so stay tuned for all the information about that one. Alrighty, we're sitting around at the moment. We're waiting for the drivers to have complete their briefing, and then they will be out for qualifying. But this year, the triple header format, which we were so familiar with last year, being the 3 races with one race one qualifying to set race 1, and then the progressive grids for race 2 and race 3. It's a bit of a different twist on it this year. It was a bit of an interesting dynamic looking at it in the development series round last weekend. But what did you make of it? Because you were there, you drove in it. What's it like with a half reverse grid for race 2?
It's definitely something different, and it was an interesting throw into an interesting throw to the standard format for development series. Durage plays differently in development series. There is a bit of a wider field spread, and we made note of that last year, especially with how tight the field spread was in Supercars. But naturally, with 2 categories of racing, and you've got some guys at the front that are trying to avoid getting promoted into the supercar season. Some guys at the back who are just starting off in a supercar. It does have a bit more of a different dynamic to it, but the general principle of the top half reverse played out very interestingly. It put the leaders who had worked so hard and battled so hard to get to the front in race 1, it put them back to 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th. They had to do it all again for race 2, and actually some of them probably even worse because they'd qualified up the front to begin with. So it gave them a challenge, and it's a good opportunity for drivers that have the pace to prove they have the ability to actually move through traffic. And we saw that through race 2, because I think it was race 1 winner, or actually it wasn't a winner, but he was up the front. Brandon Dostal had a bit of a struggle trying to get back up through the field. I think got back to, I think it was 8th at the end of race 2. Was then able to moved back towards the front again in race 3. But that's the sort of strategy element in that. And because of the field split, we very nearly had a situation a couple of times there where we would have had a Super 3 runner start from pole in race 2. That won't happen tonight, obviously. We've only got the 1 class of racing happening. There is still a chance for a little bit of wildcard, though. We've got, obviously, from the last couple of seasons, we've got a pretty good idea on who we expect to see at the top of the pile, who's going to maybe fall into the middle, and who's going to be chasing up the rear. But the way that race 1 goes and the way that Winton goes, Jeffrey could see somebody up thereabouts in a position that they might end up getting promoted. But I say top 16. Top 16 was based on Dev Series, which was running with 31 cars for the first 2 races. It's top 50%. And based off the current count, which is a bit hard to do as people leave and rejoin to reset some settings and the like, I think we're looking at 25 cars, which will mean it will round to the nearest nearest whole number.
Correct.
So the inversion will be top 13. So yes. I expect to see a pretty good race for first, second, and third, as we normally see for positions. Probably a decent race for the back in the top 10. But if Dev Series is anything to go by, people are going to be having a bar fight over 13th.
Yeah, you're not wrong. So just to fill everybody in at home, the way that the top half inversion works is the results from race number 1 are taken, and in the field of, say, if it's 24 cars, that means the halfway point is 12. It's pretty straightforward. We take the top 12 drivers, we flip them around, so 12th starts on pole, 11th starts in second, yada, 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 and 13th on back would start where they finished in race 1. If there's an uneven number of cars, so an odd number of cars such as 25, we will then round it up to the nearest whole number. So the halfway point's 12.5, which means we round it up to 13. Top 13 get reversed, same situation. 13th starts on pole, 12th starts in second all the way down to position 13, and then position 14 on back would be where they finish from race number 1. So it's an interesting dynamic, and as you said, Rhodey, it did lend a few people to have a massive argument in race 1 of the development series for that position, because there was very close to being a Super 3 driver on pole position for race number 2, which is almost unheard of in development series. So there's a few little interesting people, I think, in Super 2 and Super 3 watching on tonight. Thank you very much, everybody, for the comments that I've seen popping up in the Discord already about the intro and in the live chat as well. Thank you very much. It's something I was cutting together very, very hastily over this week, just trying to find the right things to put into the broadcast, and I think that topped it off sort of nicely. So much appreciated with the comments there. We've got a few drivers actually out on track. I believe we're waiting on one or two drivers to potentially make their way into the server. So we'll maybe give a little bit of airtime to some of the drivers that are running around at the moment, just for practice for the moment. And there's only a couple of minutes left here. So they've had a 2-hour practice already, Rhodey. So these drivers are just getting their last little bit of eye in around this circuit before we head into qualifying. I'm just waiting to see who the last person is that we're waiting to get back into the game.
I believe it's Cam Rutledge.
Yeah, Cam Rutledge, I think you might be right. Yep, you're absolutely right. So it's Cam Rutledge is the one that we're waiting in, the man from CRE Electrical, with big thanks to our sponsors, CRE Electrical, this year. They've chipped in yet again and put a good, healthy bit of money in the kitty to help us do what we do. It's very much appreciated. Same for Peter Thrower and Beyond Electrical. Pete actually went to the extent this year, and I want to give a public shout out and a massive thank you to Pete, because he actually paid for a brand new server for ASR in the off season. So that's no small feat of money. It's a couple of $100, but it's certainly worth it, and that's what the guys are running on tonight. That's where live timing's running off. It's the servers running off there as well. So massive thank you to Peter Thrower and the guys at Beyond Electrical for chipping in very, very gratefully for the new server for ASR. The old laptop was starting to show its age a little bit, despite the fact it still had 8 gigs of memory and a solid state hard drive. It was time to retire. So got a brand new Tricky G4 server that the guys are using tonight. We've got a couple of new partners in as well. We've got to give a big shout out to the Paint Doctor for mobile automotive repairs. They're going to be sponsoring the replay this year, and Pallet Control Solutions, the pallet control specialists, they're going to be sponsoring the race facts this year. So a big thank you to those guys for jumping on board in season 2024. You can see the signage is just down there at the bottom end of the server, the circuit, and is also up at turns 3 and 4 as well. So great to have our partners on board. Also, HME, Higginson Media Engineering, 444 Designs. Those guys put a whole ton of work into the mods there as well this year. And of course, LSN, Blue Sim Network and Outlaw Broadcasting, who have been broadcasting the pictures for Development Series and Supercars for the last several seasons. As always, on hand to bring you all the action. Here is the man we were waiting on to get into the server, Cam Rutledge for CRE Electrical. And actually there is one more. It is Peter Thrower, and I guess it's ironic, Rhodey, the electricians are the last ones to get in.
Yeah, it's just the run and roundabout of getting everything sorted. Probably a few drivers just checking that they've got relevant upgrades set, and just for note for those at home, there are a few upgrades available to the drivers this year. The gears have actually been moved into the in-game menu rather than being locked in the upgrades, but there is still a set drop gear ratio for each round based on real life. But one thing that you will notice as we go across the season, although you won't notice it here tonight, you won't notice the change, but a part of both of these Gen 3 models is accurately modelled air spikes and fuel fillers that will switch sides as we go throughout the season.
Yep, you can see it there on the left-hand sail panel of Steve Warwick's Camaro as he pulls into what was the old pit lane. Actually, you can see it better there on the side of the AC Delco car. and they will switch sides during the year depending on what track we go to. So this round it's at Winton, so the pits are a left-handed pits, therefore everything's on the left, but we go to Albert Park in 2 weeks and those pits are on the right, so those air spike and the fuel fillers will change positions. They will go to the right-hand side of the car. So just another little something in the Higginson Media Engineering wheelhouse and up their sleeve that they've done this year. So that was really, really great to see. So they're getting ready to go qualifying, and we're getting ready to have a little bit of a look at this track, because here we go. For the first time, and thanks to Google Earth Studio, let's hone in on the Winton Motor Raceway. It's about 3 and a bit hours north of Melbourne, just outside the town of Benalla. It's a stone's throw. You can drive from Benalla to the track in about 7 minutes. And I should know, because this is a vocal warm-up for me to go there next weekend for the Victorian State Circuit Racing Championships. So there is the 12 turns, 3 kilometre distance around this circuit. Of course, it's divided into 3 sectors. Sector 1 is the run from start-finish line up until the halfway point between turns 5 and 6. Then you've got turn 6 onwards all the way to the approach to turn 10 is sector 2, and then sector 3 is 3 corners, 10, 11 and 12, and encompasses the pit lane entry. It's actually meant to be 17 laps there on the broadcast, not 14 laps, so it is a 17 lap distance tonight. That's the first mistake of the night if you're playing along at home. And of course, 3 races tonight. It is a sprint format. This place, we haven't been here since 2022, so we skipped it last year. I think it's only appeared on the calendar about 4 or 5 times over the course of its 7-year life that we've been running for ASR Supercars now. So it's not a track that everybody looks forward to. Some look forward to it more than others. I think that's the important piece we take out of this, Roadie. Some drivers look forward to this circuit more than any other on the calendar, and some people just look at it and go, yeah, and just make a big vomiting sound. So it's one of those circuits, you love it or you hate it.
Yeah, it's one of those circuits where, for a championship like this, where there's a lot at stake for a lot of people, you'll get them turned for round 1. But very much otherwise, you might want to bury it mid-season if you're doing a bit more of a casual format. But we have now got cars on track. We missed it with the track intro, but there was a literal opening of the floodgates when the server synchronized for them. It was everyone leaving their pit lane at the same instance, or their pit box at the same instance, more or less, and it was a big cluster trying to get to the front of the queue. But at the front of the queue right now is Ryan Smith, one of the 4 drivers for the new team on the grid this year, Sideways Esports, and we'll talk more about that during the warm-up. But he's leading them out in the number 60 Super Cheap Auto back at Mustang.
Yes, he certainly is. Now, I have noticed as well there were 3 drivers that exited the server literally as the server rolled over. So Nathan Higginson, Darren Loughnane and Cam Rutledge, they are unfortunately on the sidelines for this one. They cannot get back into the server. They are going to have to start from the rear. So it's not all bad news, because there's an interesting dynamic that's going to happen with the racing over the night. Excuse me. As you can see Ryan Smith heading the queue up to the start finish line. And now's the time. Let's go on board and have a look at this lap here. So into turn 1 we go, and clip the apex and the curb at both corners, ride them nicely out to the left-hand side of the track, down the hill. Braking is a bit difficult here, and he's just struggling to get it to go to the apex. The rear's disagreeing here with the Super Cheap Auto Cup into turn number 4. These 2 turns at 3 and 4, they are the same model before the circuit was remodeled to open up those 2 corners a couple of years ago in real life. Smith's taking the narrower line for turn 5 through the kink at 6, and then into this heavy braking zone up here at turn number 7. This is a patient part of the track, and you can see here he's getting a little bit impatient, trying to apply the throttle too aggressively, and the rear's just stepping out at every way, shape and form as he tries to just get the nose tucked in. He's missing a couple of apexes here. It's not the smoothest of laps. It's just going to be a banker at this point. Another heavy braking zone. There's a passing opportunity up the inside here. Oh, rear got away from him there. Massively got away from him there going into turn number 10. Down the chute to the penultimate corner. Again, braking about 130 metres out from the corner. Got to the apex that time, got to use all the road on the outside. Now pitch it in for the final corner and leaves a little bit on the table there. And this is probably going to be at about the 123s. It's a 23.5, so not a bad start, but it's immediately usurped by Daniel Cox and by Rory Collins. Now, Collins is a name that we're going to have to start getting used to here, Rhodey, because for the uneducated at home, this is Brap.
Yeah, Brap's one of the last drivers in ASR who was still running under a pseudonym, as it were, and he's now coming out is probably not the right word, but he is now running under his birth certificate name of Rory Collins. Much as we do with Termo, though, we'll probably still be calling him Brap for the season as we start transitioning in our heads.
He's gone for a wild ride there as well, so he's gone off the circuit at turn number 6. A few drivers have done that already throughout the night. Yeah, you're right. The man on screen here, Curtis Igmanis, or Termo, was the last driver to change his name to a full proper name by birth certificate in ASR last year. Collins has followed suit this year. So everybody that's in the server actually now carries a first name and surname, and well, Termo got 2 wheels, very, very airborne there going into turn number 6. And I tell you what, that is a candidate for the Paint Doctor replay, because that is going to be our first one of the night. So check this out from Termo's point of view. Let's have a look at it again. He comes through turn 5. That wasn't the difficult part. It's just because he caught way too much curb with the right side tyres here. So through 5, he's following his teammate. A bit too aggressive, a little bit of a snap there, and it was the tyres dropped over the back of the curb. That was the problem when it came back onto the circuit. It unfortunately meant that he went skyward.
Yeah, we didn't actually catch it in the broadcast. I was in the broadcast. You were in the broadcast last week, but it wasn't actually caught in the broadcast last week. But Brandon Doster did a similar thing, from what I'm understanding, in race 2 or race 3, and very much nearly rolled the car. Very easy to do. The advantage with one of the advantages of the Gen 3 bodies and the cars for this year is that the track is a little bit wider, so it's harder to get the car to roll. That said, I wouldn't put it past anyone to do it this year, but it will be a bit harder to do. So a bit more stability over the curbs. I was going to talk quickly about who was at the top, and it was for a minute there, Kurt Stenberg. No real surprise there, but a new name's dropped up to the top of the sheets. I say a new name. You did see him last year at Adelaide, but Wayne Walker is back, and he's back for a full-time year this year.
He certainly
one
is.
Of 2 cars for Wayne's World Motorsports.
He certainly is. He's just gone back to the pits, having posted a 21.6, so that's a nice job for him. And look, some traffic for Kurt Stenberg on his his next flying lap, but it was very smartly out the way there. Good job coming out of the pits. Drivers have to be very careful. They have been warned about crossing that pit lane blend line, and rightfully so, because Kurt was absolutely steaming down the front straight in the Anti-Coal Autosport car, and he's now on his way to the first sector split. That's a fair margin at the moment, 0.8 of a second between pole and second place. Stenny's improved on his own personal marker, but not on the pole position time, and already showing the signs of what these Gen 3 cars are meant to do. They are meant to be a handful.
Absolutely, and one thing that's probably going to influence the way that we see this one shake out is that the benchmark for, I'd say the last 2 weeks, but realistically, the last 6 to 8 months at this point, has been Luke Rosella. He would have been here tonight, but unfortunately he's had a power dropout at his place, which has meant that the other BWT Pixel Sim Sports car that you see tonight, the white one, is driven by Lewis Wedding. He's there in substitute. But the important thing is all the drivers were aiming to beat Luke Rosella's time, and he's not here anymore. So, big opportunity for anybody who's not Luke Rosella to have a crack at the top of the pile. But that's perhaps going to throw an influence in there, because that's a name we'd expect to see slotting in there that just won't be there tonight. Yeah,
that's exactly right. There's a whole bunch of drivers now. You can see, there was a spinner in the background. I think it was Scott Murrell, who's a substitute tonight as well, as Stenberg's off the road at turn 1, having completed his last flying lap. Here is Lewis Wedding. You were just mentioning him. He's tucked up behind one of the pixelated Elf Autosport cars. That'll be Lockie Burke, who's heading down the front chute to start a lap there as well. And you'll be able to tell whenever Lewis is in for a substitute, because, as you said, it's the inverse of the other BWT Pixel Sim Sport Camaro, where it has the white top and the pink bottom, whereas the other cars have the pink top and the white bottom. So a little bit of a difference to be able to be told there. The old joke last year, Rhodey, was that you had trouble telling the 2 Pixel Sim Sport Holden Commodores apart, or back then, sorry, it was the real Holden Pixel Racing Team ZB Commodores apart. I'll tell you what, whatever's going on here, Burke is almost leading out here. I was about to say he was leading out for Wedding, because Wedding was up on the pole time at Sector 1, but not by much. Up on his own marker by a good couple of tenths there as well. And that would be enough to move him up probably into the top 7 or 6 cars at this rate. Let's just see what the clock says when he gets down to second sector split here, which comes up in turn 10. And I suspect he'll be down on the pole time. Yes, he is, but look at the PB. Massive amount of time. That's 9/10 of a second at the moment as it stands. That would be enough to vault him up into about 5th place if he can keep this going here. Actually, probably better than that, I would say. He's 1.4 behind at the moment. It's going to be a lot more than that. It's probably going to be probably up into top 3. Let's see what the clock says at the line. Yes, second. Front row provisionally at the moment with 1.5 minutes to go. That's a very smart lap.
It is, and for a car that's running a banner field filler, he's doing a lot more than filling the field off that sort of pace.
The teammate at the moment in Brendan Ross is coming through the opening couple of corners here. He's currently 9th, so got a little bit of work to do. This is the late scramble, the last minute scramble for time. So Wayne Walker, he's on another lap. This won't trouble the timesheets too much, but this will be his final lap with 1 minute to go on the clock. Current provisional pole sitter seems to have gotten a handle on these cars quite nicely. Heading down to turn number 3. His teammate, who's another rookie lineup this year, Alex Kiddis, 8th place. So good opening stanza so far from the two Wayne's World Motorsport Mustangs.
Absolutely, Kiddis actually just been dropped just quickly there by, I missed it, he went through to pick up the time. But yeah, very good run from Kiddis. He was off the pace early in the session, but he started to come good. So good to see both those cars currently in the top 10.
Goes back to 8th there as well. He'll get another lap in if he's fueled for it, but he's got one of the PBF Renstall Blackshaw's cars in front of him. Gets smartly out the way. Very nice job. I think that was Steve Warwick actually who was in front, so very well spotted. And down into turns 3 and 4 he goes with the helicopter shot there. Now, our current series, reigning series champion, Will Devonish, is only 7th at the moment, Roddy. This is his last lap as well, and that was a PB last time around for him, but he's 9/10 of a second off the pace at the moment.
Absolutely. The only thing I could perhaps hope is that Will's, and we know what sort of practice Will puts in based off previous seasons, the hope there is that perhaps he's been putting the practice into the race format and qualifying has played a back step. But either way, the worse he qualifies, the more work he's going to do in the race. And at this point, he's behind Tim Redmond, and we know they had a pretty good big battle last year, but also behind some of the newcomers, behind Anthony Green, who, worth pointing out, Super 2 runner right there, that he's slower than.
He certainly is.
And yeah, slower than Noah Tara, who's quickly emerging as a potential to be the quickest CRE driver based off of the 2 hours or so we've seen of the season so far. But yeah, he's going to have, well, this is his last lap, and he's not green.
No, he won't improve.
For second two.
He will not improve at all. There's very few drivers left on some fast laps at the moment. I think Daniel Cox has actually backed out of this one. He's 0.4 of a second down in 14th. I think he is the last possible runner, I think, that is looking to set a time. Only other drivers I can see out there are Peter Thrower, who's on a slow down lap, and no, Cox pulls the pin. So that's the end of qualifying. And, well, we've got a new maiden pole sitter in ASR. For the very, very first time, Wayne Walker's got a pole. So he came into the series late last year, the last round at Adelaide, and sort of, announced his presence in a Gen 2 Mustang, and he's got the pole here tonight. So bit of not so much a changing of the guard, because we haven't got a chance to compare him off against Luke Rosella just yet, but everything else, it looks pretty handy for the Wayne's World Motorsport guys at the moment, as that is qualifying done and dusted.
Absolutely, and yeah, really good time from Wayne, but as Higo's pointed out in the chat, and I will make mention of it again, we did mention it at the time, but Lewis Wedding, for where he's been and for what his last 6 months of racing have been, he was that far off the pace, at least internally, that he stepped back from the team, and that's how we ended up with Luke Rosella running the back half of the year for the real Pixel Holden Racing team. But to come back in the Enduros and have a good run, and then to come back today, granted, it's just qualifying. He can very much be Mr. Saturday this year. We're about to find out, but to be ahead of Kurt Stenberg, who is a former series champion in qualifying, is pretty good running for someone that 6 months ago didn't feel he had the pace to be on the grid at all.
No, exactly. And almost like a lap from the heavens, isn't it? Like it came out of nowhere. Like he was given a little bit of a tow in probably what's the most difficult part of the lap to get a tow with a car in front of you through the twisty stuff, but somehow they managed to make it work. And, most of the time you want a car to be running in front of you down the chute from 9 to 10, from 10 to 11, and then from 12 all the way to turn 1. They're the spots that you really want to get a bit of a tow, because history over the course of time has suggested that this place is not a place where a tow is really important. It's like places like Phillip Island and like Sandown, where you have a lot of front straightaway and back straightaway to be able to do that sort of thing. They're the kind of places where you typically find drivers will gain an advantage by sitting in the tow of another car. Short 5-minute practice session here, just to drivers to get themselves acclimatised, get through the starting procedure, most importantly, Rhodey, because I don't think very many drivers have had a chance to actually start these cars. So we'll probably see a few drivers just trundle around and pick up some spots on the grid and go ahead and try and find the right bite point of the clutch and make these things launch. But it gives us an opportunity, I guess, and more importantly, you an opportunity to have a look at some of these cars and these teams, because there's been a lot of change this year.
There has. So one thing you will perhaps notice the absence of this year, and it's just showed how much work has gone into getting these cars out and running, and also to get the Dev Series set up, is there is, as of round 1, there is no nice big glossy grid intro video, and there will perhaps be one later in the season. But for now, I've picked up a few points that I would have covered in running the script for the grid video, and I'll run it through them now. So the first point, and definitely a point which is mirrored with the Dev Series, is the increase in the grid size. We were at 24 full-time entries last year. We're up to 29 this year, which you mentioned earlier. The interesting switch, and it's happened the same in the Dev Series, is a lot of the interest has actually switched. It was previously a Holden-dominated series, much like real life. This year, across both categories, the switch has gone to the Blue Oval. In the case of the Supercars, we had 8 Ford Mustangs on the grid last year. We have 17 Ford Mustangs on the grid this year, and we've lost 4 cars from the GM stable, obviously down from the ZBs to the Camaros. In terms of how that looks for the teams, we've got all 4 big teams back, that being PBF, Pixel, Beyond, and CRE. PBF and Pixel are both committed to the Camaros. They were both competing to be the Holden factory team last year. I imagine much the same this year, but for Chevrolet instead. Beyond dabbled across both. They had the main team running in Ford product, and they had I can't remember what the team actually was, but it was the team with Higginson and Bailey Hall running in the Camaros.
That was the Young Guns last year.
That was the Young Guns,
yes.
Yep. Those guys, Higgos left the team. Bailey's actually stuck around, but in a different format. So he's now teamed up with Darren Logman under Vortex Racing Team, but they are supported by Beyond. They've now got a purely Ford lineup, so no Commodores for them anymore, no Holden or GM products. CRE are now the only ones that are running a mixed lineup, although most of their stuff is leaning towards the Fords. They've got the CRE engineering team and the Amped Up Racing team both in Mustangs, but they've also then got the CRE Anson team in Camaros. And although he's not a CRE driver as such, he is a privateer. Ben Hall at McHugh Racing, very much a CRE offshoot. He's also running a Camaro. But sorry, no, he isn't a Mustang. Sorry, I'm getting there. The interesting player with the team standings is we've got a third one coming in this year, which I mentioned earlier, which is Soares Esports. They were big in the Dev Series last year, and actually big in the Dev Series this year. If you include all their offshoots, they've got about a third of the grid. This year in Supercars, it's not quite so big for them. It's their first year in the series full time. They've just got the 4 cars, the 2 SES light cars, the 2 SES dark cars, and we've seen some pretty good pace from them so far, and we'll see how they go throughout the year. As I mentioned earlier, we've got a few more single car teams this year. We're up to 5, which is Steve Burker for C7 Satellite, Ben Hall for McHugh Racing, Kurt Stenberg for Anti-Cold Autosports, Nathan Higginson for his team, it's Higginson Media something. And there is a 5th team that's unfortunately dropping from my memory right now, but I did have the list in front of me earlier. And a couple of quick stats I want to run off just about those small teams to finish us off. As we mentioned earlier as well, the Wayne Road Motorsports car has an all-rookie lineup, which we haven't seen terribly often within ASR. Most drivers normally have some heritage within ASR, even if it's not within a supercar format. They've come from GT3 or from a social series, but we've seen Wayne once, and we've seen Kiddis only in practice sessions for this year. So a very, very, very evergreen, very new lineup there. For Aidan Williams, who was that fifth driver, I couldn't remember it earlier, his Williams Racing. We're not seeing his car on track tonight, but when we do see him, he's the second cars-based livery that we've seen in the last 12 months. Just random fact, but if you watched the Dev Series broadcast last year, you might remember Lindsay Muddle's 95 racing team, number 95 as VF Commodore, which was based on the Techno Racing livery. Aiden's got something similar, but with a 33 to match his own racing number. And the final little stat I want to pull up is that as of the start of race 1, which is coming up in a few minutes' time, Higo will join the very few numbered club of drivers that have driven all 3 major manufacturers in supercars competition, starting with the Nissan, coming to the Holden for a few years, / GM, and now moving to the Mustang this year.
Yeah, you're not wrong. So he's had a fairly decent hand in supercars over the last several seasons, and good to see him chalking up that milestone number there as well. It's sad to see that a couple of drivers couldn't make it tonight. Actually, the Aidan Williams car is actually a personal favourite of mine. I actually really like that, what he's done with that car. It fit the lines of the livery, fit the lines of the body of the Camaro almost to a T, and he did a very, very nice job of describing to Lockie Lock what he wanted, because Lockie painted that car. So props also need to go to the author of the paintbrush that goes along with it. So the clock is at 0 here, so there'll be the last couple of attempts for a few drivers just to complete a couple of last minute burnout attempts and some laps and things, and we won't be too far away from going racing. So I don't know who you want to put your money on for this one, Rhodey, because there's a few little curveballs to throw out of this one. 25 drivers, mixed up grid, hard and soft tyre both in play, sprint racing, and the possibility that there might have to be some stops depending on the tyre that you choose. That's the bit that's, I think, going to set the cat amongst the pigeons tonight, is who on earth is going to pick the right tyre at the right time.
Yeah, that's going to be where the question lies. And we have a little bit of a read on the tyre life based off of Dev Series last year, but this is the first year where we're not seeing a commonality in the car physics across the 3 divisions of supercars. So we haven't actually got a strict, reliable indicator where the tyres will sit. We do have some race facts we'll be able to bring to you later. But based off of Dev Series, if you're running the softs and wanting to actually, drive hard on them, you had to stop. That was my strategy, and it's why I did pretty good in first 2 races and sunk like a stone when the race went green to checkered without an issue in race 3. But yeah, very much I could see the same thing. These cars are probably going to use the tyres a little bit more than the last gen, with a bit less aero to them. So I think very much, especially with the pace these guys are doing, very much indication that if you're on softs, you're going to have to stop. If you're on hards, you can keep blazing the entire run through, but hards are naturally a little bit slower. But it's going to really depend on where drivers have qualified, where they think they're going to end up in the end of the race, and what they think the likelihood is of a safety car.
Absolutely. So we're just getting the 30-second warning that we're about ready to go into racing here. There was 1 or 2 drivers that just needed to get themselves back into the server and sort themselves out. So they have now done so, and we're now ready to go with 25 drivers around Winton for the first of 3 races tonight. And we are, well, ready. I'm excited. I've been excited for I guess all this week. I've been looking forward to it because I've been wanting to see what happens tonight, because I think this is something that, we looked at as ASR last year, and we decided that, we weren't going to try and introduce a Generation 3 mod at the very beginning of the year, because there was probably a lot of things that were likely to change. We saw all of that happen. We saw bodywork changes. We saw shift cut changes. A whole bunch of different things happened in real life, and we didn't want to be the ones to go out and have to be continually changing things as the season wore on. So it was delayed for the better part of 12 months to get the visuals right, get the physics right, get a whole bunch of things right. Finally, we're here.
Absolutely. So just waiting for the last cars to get on the grid. As per usual, I think the Pixel cars are the ones we're waiting on. That said, actually, no, Rossi's in. We're just waiting on Lewis, who has built up a legacy or a
fashionably late
reputation of being the last one onto the grid. But I think actually Boki's just jumped on, and we should be good to go.
We are. The grid's yours, my friend.
Alrighty, so starting from pole, the first pole of 2024 is Wayne Walker for Wayne's World Motorsports in the Hog's Breath number 217. Alongside him is Lewis Wedding, who very much a return to form for the number 89 driver as a fill-in tonight, though, for Luke Rosella's number 55 that we should see next round. Starting from third is Kurt Stenberg in the number 47 Anti-Cold Autosports Camaro. That's a very sharp-looking livery, very nice red and white scheme for that one. Fourth is Noah Turra for Amped Up Racing by CRE, the first of the CRE drivers, and a good result for him to really back up what he was doing last year. Fifth is Anthony Green, the first of the SES drivers, another Mustang there as well, the number 10 Autobahn backed car. Sixth is Tim Redmond sporting the differential rim colours. You can do that this year. One of few drivers to actually play around with it so far. The first driver for Beyond in the number 43. Seventh is Will Devenish running the number 1 tonight and running the number 1 at the end of the season. Will otherwise be defending his championship with the number 15 on the window. Eighth is Ryan Smith running for Super Cheap Auto for SES's Dark team. Ninth is Lockie Burke, the first and only of the pixelated Alpha Autosport cars on the grid tonight, and Alex Kiedis round out the top 10, the second of the Wayne's World Motorsports Mustangs. 11th is Lockie Lock, the second of the amped up by CRE Mustangs, with Brendan Ross in 12th, a little far back from the other BWT Picture Sim Sports Camaro. 13th is Leonard Grossel, the lead of the Renstall PBF Blackshaws Camaros. 14th is Daniel Cox for Siri Anson Motorsport. 15th is Rory Collins for Soares Esports Light. 16th is Termo Curtis Minor. He's a long way back for Sierra Engineering, but he'll work his way up through the grid. 17th is Dan Liccardo, also a little while back there for SES Dark. 18th is Peter Thrower for Beyond Racing. 19th is Brenton Foley, who's also a long way back for PBF Race Engineering. 20th is Steve Warwick, the second of the Renstall PBF Blackshaws Camaros. 21st is Phil Boken, the sister car to Brenton Foley. 22nd, Scott Murrell's filling in for Ben Hall tonight. Will damage to make him right through the grid there. Cam Rutledge in 23rd for Siri Anson. Darren Logan in 24th for Cortex Racing Team. And Nathan Higginson starting off the back of the grid for Higginson Media Motorsport.
There you go, what a mouthful that is. And I did notice that Will Devenish had a little bit of a spin at some point, so I'm a bit confused as to what had happened there. But here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Generation 3 is underway for the very, very first time in ASR Supercars. It's the Winton triple header. The pole sitter gets the jump down into turn number 1. Stenberg's got his hands full back there as well with Noah Turra. Good opening launch from him. It's a huge pack of cars. There's a few drivers going here, there and everywhere. Pole sitter's got the jump, but have a look at this log champ going into turn number 3. Mirrors go, or covers go flying as the cars are a little bit wider than they're used to. So there's naturally going to be a little bit of contact deep in the field, but there's a lot of drivers that are struggling to make some hay while the sun shines at the moment as they come up through the sweeper at turn number 5. Looking to see who's gone backwards, who's gone forwards in here, Rody, because it's going to be a struggle, I think, in the first couple of laps to really find your groove and really work out just where you're at.
Absolutely. First mover in the queue is Lockie Burke, who's just moved up the 1 spot to get ahead of... Well, actually, wasn't ahead of Brendan Ross. He moved up 3 spots, but yeah, more mirrors flying off in the background. It's one thing we will see this year. Mirror covers are detachable, so you will see a lot of those littering probably a lot of the street circuits. But yeah, a very busy start, but actually a very clean start, all things considered at the same time. Everyone's still in the queue.
Going to be keen to see what happened to Will Devenish out of all of that, because when we were rolling through the grid, I did notice he'd looped the car down at turn number 10, and he's he might lose a position here to Lockie Burke, and he does. So Burke very quickly up the inside with the Devonish mistake at 11, gets that done. Will's going to try and look for a high move on the outside here, left, right. Is he going to go back underneath? No, that's probably a smart decision just to play the waiting game and tuck back in behind the pixelated Alpha Motorsport, Autosport rather, car. Oh, big sideways moment for Cox there exiting turn 2.
Yeah, speaking of positional changes, and we just caught the reverse of what I caught a few corners ago. Kurt Stenberg and Noah Taro in a good little scrap there. Noah actually got through on Kurt coming down the main straight, but Kurt Stenberg sort of very much picked him up high and wide through turn 3. Kind of pushed him out of road a little bit there. Mirrors went flying again. And he's back through, but it's a quite good little scrap, and something I didn't quite expect to see. Lewis Wedding is pulling away from this pack.
Yeah, Lewis Wedding is actually moving away from this group of cars, and Wayne Walker's got the whole shot at the moment. He's been a good 2.2 seconds down the road, so the horse is well and truly bolted, and I can say that literally because he is at the helm of a Mustang right now, so he has well and truly bolted. Good opportunity though, before we get too far into this race, to have a look at our Pallet Control Solutions race facts for tonight. So you can see there 17 laps and 12 turns around this 3-kilometre circuit. The fuel rate is not such a big concern here because these cars have had a tank increase in line with real life. It's now 133 litres maximum capacity in these cars, so fuel burn's not going to be the problem tonight. The big question is down the bottom there. Will the soft tyres last the 17 laps? It was a borderline call in the development series a week ago, and a few drivers had a few very, very ordinary looking left-hand side tyres on their development series cars. The question is tonight, they've got to go the extra distance with the amount of effort they have to put in and exert. Will soft tyres actually make it? That's the real question.
Yeah, I was just doing a quick little jump through the grid to see who's running in the softs, and there are a few runners, but most of the guys are out there on the hards. The only guys I've seen so far on softs is Cursing Linus, who's just spun and dropped to the back of the grid, and I think he's actually picked up a puncture as a result. Actually, that does look like a puncture, so we'll probably see him in soon, probably much earlier than he wanted to stop with those soft tyres on. And the other one I've spotted is Scott Murrell, who's obviously running as a CRE fill-in driver tonight over at the Racing. Yep. So
you can see there the white sidewall tyres. That's what you were talking about there, Rody. Yes. So the white sidewall tyres on the Mustang there in shot of Vigmanis. You're right, he has got a front left puncture there, so that indicates the soft tyre. We were looking at Rory Collins a little bit before. He's got the yellow sidewall tyres on, so he's running the hard. So that's another key point of difference tonight, is you'll be able to see which of the cars is running the harder tyre versus the softer tyres. You can see here Leonard Grossel at the 66. You can clearly see that sidewall is yellow. And then Higginson looks like has he got a soft on?
I think he does, yeah.
He's got a soft on.
So he very much trying to play out of the box, I suppose. Higo was around, he wasn't racing last week, but he was around for the Dev Series last week. He saw the rate of the safety cars, and he's probably banking on that. Either that or just simply going for the basis that, look, it's his first year in a couple of years where he's running his own operation this year, very much sort of set his own goals. And I think for Higo, the big goal for him is just probably try and enjoy this year. And if nothing else, you have to pit. You know, the tyres might be a bit rubbish in the back end, but the soft tyre is the more enjoyable tyre to drive on. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's the reason behind it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Probably, and also starting at the back, he's made some good progress. He's up to up 9 places, sorry, I should say at the moment, into 16th. So he's looking at probably trying to advance himself to the position of trying to get the reverse pole. So he's got to get to 13th place. He's only 3 positions away from that at the moment, so he's probably not in. He's probably in a handy position to do so. But I've been keeping an eye on this because Kurt Stenberg was gnawing away on the back of Lewis Wedding for the last couple of corners. He's now looking at the high position around the long way at turn number 11. He'll have to really sweep down hard here. Wedding gives him a space. They almost both run off the circuit. Turret nearly had a look down the inside of the number 89 at turn number 12, but he didn't get that done. Stenberg through, and very, very nice bit of driving actually by both parties there to get through at turn number 11 without any major contact. But now Wedding's hard tyres, I think, are starting to protest a little bit here, starting to slide around a little bit too early, much earlier than he would like.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see whether there's perhaps a setup difference there between where Stenberg and Taro have gone and where Wedding has gone. Perhaps might just be simply a case of Wedding's tyres, other way around, sorry. that Tara's and Stenberg's tyres were set up to come into their own later in the stint, as opposed to Lewis, who might have had his prime ready to go basically on lap 1. But yeah, he is starting to fall back a little bit. That said, again, based off of last year's pace, there's still an improvement relative to last year. But Stenberg very much, I think, was almost kind of like having a fly flying around your head with having Tara keeping him occupied. But now that he's been able to break free from Tara, he's very much looking like he's heading off down the road, trying to get in the direction of Wayne Walker. But he's going to have a bit of a challenge there because Walker did set the fastest lap the last time through, and he's got a gap of 5 seconds.
Yep, so there you go. Go on board with the Mustang here, Noah Tara. He's going to look down the inside of Lewis Wedding. He's not close enough to pull that move off. It's one of the great onboard shots this year as well. In real life, you would have noticed if you were watching a Supercars broadcast a couple of weeks ago that the two internal cameras are in slightly different positions. So the Mustang is a little bit more central in the cockpit. So that's an interesting fact for this year. And then you get to somewhere like the Camaro. If we swap doors here and look at Lewis Wedding, you can see that's very much sort of focused across the ship and looking there across at the driver. Zoomed in a little bit too much there, unfortunately, but we will fix that one up in for the next race.
But yeah, good little battle going on here, and actually, he's doing a good job of trying to keep Lewis honest here, Tara, and very much, I think, taking advantage of the fact that they're able to start to break away just slightly from the train behind. That said, the train is sort of dissipated behind. It's only really Anthony Green who's following them around. He's got a bit of a gap then to Tim Redmond, who's then got his hands full with the 2023 champion.
Yes, so Green's catching this group at the moment. He was 0.2 of a second quicker than Wedding last time around. Tara was much quicker than Wedding, but he couldn't get through. He just closed the gap down. So this is now a 3-car fight for the last spot on the podium here. The Autobahn SES entry is right under the rear wing of Noah Tara here as they head down into second last corner again, and it all starts to concertina up. This is that next battle group that you were talking about. So Tim Redmond, who sort of was for a long time, he's played the bridesmaid, I guess you can call it, to Will Devonish in terms of not race wins and things like that. Oh, there was a car across the infield there. Was that Lachlan Lock? Yeah, it was Lachlan. Yeah, it was Lachlan Lock actually. So he's had a bit of a move. I was wondering why there was a yellow flag out. He's come in right in the realm here of a pack of angry cars, as we'll go and take a look at our Paint Doctor replay here and have a little bit of a look at what happened here. Oh, he lost it all by himself. He lost it off at turn 11. That'll be what the spin was for, and he's just shortcut the circuit there, and he's actually done the right thing. He's actually come on relatively close to where he was, but also at an angle that's not going to impede the other cars around him. Although the only downside for him was it put him into this pack.
Yeah, and this will be the little pack as well. So it's headed by Dan Liccardo, who I think himself is trying to perhaps chase down on Lockie Burke, who's probably not trying to get away from this train. But it's a SES 1-2 in this train, so we get a pair of the SES dark cars leading this train. You can tell them by basically, I think what colour their door is the delineation between the dark and the light team. It's white and black versus black and white.
I was wondering what that demarcation was, and you're absolutely right. Now that you pointed out, it is fairly obvious that it is the dark and the light door coloured, and that sort of graphic that runs down the left-hand and right-hand sides of the car. It's almost like the inverse is on the other cars around it.
But so they're leading the train. Then we've got Locke, and then we've got Coxie buying in there in the back, and then from there, Kiddis, who's had a bit of a drop off since the start. He started in the top 10, and then Gressel and Foley, who are both working up from inadvantageous qualifying positions.
Yes. So they're starting to move their way forward. So Cox at the moment is the man in the catbird seat. He's the one that's going to start on the pole for the next race if he stays precisely where he is. I was looking for what had happened to Nathan Higginson, and what do you think's happened to Nathan Higginson, Rhodey?
I'm going to say a spin.
No, not quite. He's in the pits.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that'll be for his. So that'll be for. I imagine for his tyres. It's not quite halfway, but. And if I was Higo, I would have, if the tyres would have liked it, I would have gone a little bit longer just to allow for the possibility of a safety car. But if nothing else is in now, the big question is going to be is where he's going to come out relative to, he's changing both. The big question is going to be where he comes out relative to, I suppose, Termo, and then to the leader as well. He's probably not going a lap down though.
Yeah, so he's going to, he is actually going to go a lap down to the race leader. He's just going through right about now. as I've just cut back to have a look at Anthony Green, because for some reason he's dropped away from the back of Noah Tara, so he's had a moment somewhere and has actually fallen behind Brendan Ross in the second of the BWT Picks and Sim Sport machines, and moving up to 7. So he's up 5 spots from where he started. Oh, Higginson actually I just noticed he actually just went straight on where did he go straight on? He's gone straight on at turn number 2. So that's a most unusual pit exit for Nathan Higgins. Unfortunately for Higo, he doesn't know what this means. It means another paint doctor replay is incoming. And he did the right thing here. Oh, I know what he did. I know what he did. And he got a love tap from Kurt. That's nothing Kurt could do about that. That's unfortunately going to be fairly and squarely. I think he was in two minds there, Rody, if I'm being honest with you. I think he was in two minds. He's come out of the pits and he's realised that he had to get out of the way of an approaching car. Did the right thing. He was inside the boundary, but he really just should have pressed on with it, or just probably pulled over to the left-hand side and shortcut turn 1 a little bit earlier.
Yeah, well, that was just a really awkward spot to catch, for Kurt, more so to catch lap traffic. And yeah, it's really only a one-line corner. It can be two-line if you're battling with someone and you've kind of agreed to it beforehand. But yeah, very much in that position, it's ideally a one-line corner. I do also go back and have a look what happened to Anthony Green, as I think we got some damage on Higo's carries brakes. He missed the brakes there at the third last corner. But I went back and had a quick look at Anthony Green. He was coming through 5 into 6, and he got a slide going the wrong way and ended up nearly out to the wall on the outside of 6. So that was what dropped him back a few spots.
That's the third SES car that's done that tonight. I noticed Dane Liccardo did it. I noticed Rory Collins did it, and now Anthony Green's done it. So there must be something in the setup that those guys have gone for, making the car very, very twitchy going into turn 5 and 6, and they have to be very, very careful with how they get through that turn. So that's an interesting little thing. I think they'll be wanting to try and smarten up over the course of the night. They want to try and get that corrected. They don't want to have that happen at an awkward situation. So Noah Tara's gone through to third place here. Kurt Stenberg is not making any inroads actually into the race leader. So there's actually quite a golfing class in terms of the lap pace at the minute. Stenberg's in 25 flat last time around. Wayne Walker's the only driver in the 24s. So yeah, he's really on it.
I will say I've seen it fluctuate here and there, which might just be down to perhaps a slight lack of consistency on Walker's behalf, but where he needs the pace, he's got it. And yeah, Kurt's had a good probably 5 laps now to try and do something about it. If anything, the gap's gotten bigger. So yeah, it's Walker. I've seen him. He was on the server a little bit. I haven't seen quite the extent of how many laps he's done, but clearly he's done enough.
Well, that's the first. Well, actually, that's the first.
Comfortable with his race strategy.
Well, that's the first time Kurt's actually been quicker than Wayne Walker. So Kurt did a 24.1 that lap around. Walker did a 24.8. So, and that's down from the previous lap, which was a 24, I think about 24.2. So it's the first time Kurt's actually made quite a lot of inroads into the race leader on that time already. He's got plenty of time. He's got a better part of, we're on lap 11 out of 17, so there's still another, 7.5 laps to go, basically, or 6.5 laps to go. Still plenty of time. The gap's not insurmountable. We'll just keep an eye out on how much more time Kurt's actually able to take out of the number 217. Pretty sure it was 217. Yes, 217.
Yep. Yeah, so we are just past the halfway mark, at which point I would think by now anyone who is still out there on softs, which is I think just those 2 CRE cars, that said, we have seen Tomo in, so he's on his second set of softs now, I would imagine. But Scott Murrell is probably feeling the pain a little bit now. Just trying to go and find where he is. He's down at 19. He's actually made a few spots up, but not as nearly as many as I thought he would have running on softs compared to all the hard runners out there. But I expect to see him in the next lap or 2. This was about the point where the soft tyres really started to fall off in Dev Series.
Yeah, that's right. Now, there was a lot of talk about whether or not you'd be better off to try and nurse the softs along and have a little bit more grip available to you and just try and get to lap 17 and be done with it, rather cross the line with a really badly worn set of softs than run on the hards and risk the pace deficit that's there. But I mean, what we're seeing is that a lot of drivers have been able to get some pace out of the hard tyre, which is an important little bit of news because there have been a couple of changes to the hard tyre over the course of the off-season. just to make it a bit more of a viable tyre, to give drivers the option to say, hey, look, this hard tyre is actually not as rubbish as a lot of people have made it out to be for the past 6 seasons. It's actually had a little bit of improvement to make it a bit more, to improve its longevity. I think that's probably what the killer was, just to make sure that it doesn't drop off and lose its, its grip after, a handful of laps, that it actually makes it a bit more of a strategy viability.
Absolutely, yeah, and that will be an option that will come up, or an option that is now available to the Dev Series guys. It was developed too late in time for their round 1, but is available for round 2.
Steve Warwick very nearly off the road at turn 7. He had a bit of a lock-up going down into there. At the moment he's running all on his own, so he didn't have too many people around him to lose the spot, and he wasn't gaining anything over the car in front, which happens to be Rory Collins. And he's got a good healthy 4 or 5 seconds back to the next car in the queue, which we were just watching with Scott Murrell, to see how the car reacts going into turn number 10. Beautifully balanced there, corner. And now heading down towards turn 11, there's Murrell in the background. There's Termo as well, who's actually still a lap down as well. So Higginson and Igmanis, both the only cars 1 lap down at this stage. Actually, the sister car to Steve Warwick actually has just had a moment on the front straight. Leonard Grossel, he's just had a little bit of a half spin all on his own, just recovered. Look at the lap time there, was 31.3. So the sister cars inside of each other for the Redstall PBF Blackshaws. They haven't had the best run through the grid. This is, I guess, this is a bit of a change for Leonard, isn't it? He was a jet. He was very, very quick in a Gen 2 supercar last year when he was promoted from the development series straight into I guess a PBF main game drive, but this is not the start to the season that he would have wanted.
No, so the part of what didn't help there was I do have a look, and he had a very inopportune lag spike that basically dropped him 20-30 metres back down the road from where he actually was. What that did was dropped him right off the front bumper of Daniel Cox's Camaro. So of course then he got spun off the front of Daniel Cox's Camaro. It wasn't anything Coxie could have done. Leonard just appeared on his bumper and he had no say in the matter, but that's what put him off. But yeah, not quite picking up to the car the same way that he was last year. That said, cars behave a little bit different. And also he is out there on the hard tyre, which I know we definitely tried to where we could run the hard tyre in PBF in the previous years, but it just wasn't. As I said earlier with Higo, it's just a less fun tyre to drive on. So the amount of hard tyre experience we've got to really sort of pass on to Leonard and Steve this year isn't maybe as much as the other teams have. But these guys will pick up their pace, Leonard and Steve as well, where they've both spent quite well. In the case of Leonard, it's only his start of his second time here in a car, but between the pair of them, they have both got a lot of experience on the board. It's just really trying to tack that into where a Gen 3 car drives.
Yep, certainly is. We'll have a look at this because there was a little bit of an awkward moment there. So Lockie Lock was running in 12th place and had another off-track excursion. That's then elevated Daniel Cox up into 12th. It's actually elevated Kiddis into what we call the catbird seat, which is pole position for the next race. So Brent Foley is right tucked on his rear bumper. He would dearly love a pole position. Been in a long, long time between drinks for poles, Brent Foley. And the reason I cut to this little group was because these two SES dark cars were getting it on through the last final corners of on the circuit, so on the previous tour. So I'm really keen to sort of see what these guys are on about at the moment. Let's have a look at rearwards from Licardo's Sideways Esport Dark Mustang, because this is where it happened. This is where Smith had a dive under brakes at turn number 11 last time around. Licardo's run wide there, and Smith is not quite close enough to capitalise on what's going on. So last time they ran side by side through those last couple of corners, but this has become a very, very agitated pack, Rody, I think, in the last couple of minutes, and there's now 3 laps to go. Licardo would probably dearly love a top 10, but even more so, I think one of these drivers would dearly love a front row for the next race.
Absolutely. Well, it's a combination of probably where the tyre window is, even for these guys all out here on hards. They'll be definitely walking into the edge of the tyre that is a little bit less favourable to drive on. But yeah, 3 laps to go. And for some of them, definitely that race for 13th.
Who was that off in the background? Was that Foley?
I think it was Foley.
Yeah, that was Foley. He went off in the background at a vast rate of knots, so that's going to take him out of a shot for pole. What happened to him? He actually had quite a, he went for a bit of a wild ride there. We're going to bring up our Paint Doctor replay again. Let's have a look at that one for Mr. Foley. Because that one was, this is all on his own. Have a look at this, Rody. This was 100% big brake lock-up, all on his own, and drops how many positions? I think there's at least 2 or 3 in here. There's Locke, Collins, and Grossel. Yep, 3 places gone like that.
Yeah, that's easy enough to do. Just a weird one, I suppose, with the weight transfer. But I suppose that was the unloaded side of the car. Very easy to pick up a brake lock up there, and yeah, with where the tyres are at, just careened him straight off into the grass. So that takes him out of the fight. And actually, that very much at this stage, at least, unless we start to see development in the next lap or two, maybe Locke and Collins pick it up a little bit. Very much seemed to have stabilised that fight for 13th into not really being a fight at all. It's actually the other way, because Kiddis is still hunting pretty well onto the back of Daniel Cox. Very much a possibility that in the fight for points, and to be fair, where Kiddis is at, he might not want a front row, well, he might not want the pole start, but he's still going to end up with a front row start the further he pushes up the grid, but very much probably just looking for the points more than anything else. But
yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, we might have a situation where we have people fighting to not get pole as things turn out.
Oh, got a bit close there. Cox shut the door. I think he realised there was a passing move there, but that's opened the door for Locke. He might go the highway around the outside here. No, not quite on this occasion. He's got a bit more work to do. Leader has actually commenced the final lap, and the margin at the moment out in front is about 5.5 seconds. So it's Stenberg hasn't been able to chop that gap down, and it's going to be a win, it looks like, at this stage for the Wayne's World Motorsport number 217, the sister car to this one we're watching on screen at the minute in this fight for what is the front row. Actually, we'll go and have a look at our race leader. Here he comes up through turn 5. He hasn't put a foot wrong, Rody. That's what I've looked at. He poled quite handsomely and has led every single lap. Apart from a couple of tardy laps, he has not been off the circuit. He's come to grips with these cars rather quickly.
Absolutely, yeah. Just duck to water is probably the best way to put it. He's just got in and he's just swimming away. And yeah, the interesting bit will be for him is he's had a clean run off the front row in race number 1, but that won't be the instance for race number 2. So it'll be interesting to see how Wayne interacts with the pack. We've got a good 5-minute wait until we start to see that. But yeah, the battle is still raging on for the minor places. Got actually Lewis Wedding getting harassed a little bit by Tim Redmond, who I thought would have passed him by now, but perhaps just wasn't able to truck on the same way that Will Davis and Noah Tara have. But Tim's giving Lewis the big hurry up out of the pits.
Certainly is. We'll go back to that in a minute, but let's salute a new race winner in ASR Supercars. Wayne Walker, welcome to the ASR Supercars Winners Club for the very first time in the Wayne's World Motorsport Mustang. Second for Kurt Stenberg, so front row start, good points for him, converts that nicely. And Lachlan Locke up to, Noah Tara, I should say, I do apologise, up to third place there. And Will Devenish home in fourth. And then look at this, Tim Redmond giving the big hurry up to Lewis Wedding. Coming down to the line here, so fifth for Wedding, sixth for Redmond, seventh for the sister car and Ross, and Anthony Green home in eighth. Ninth for Lockie Burke. Now this battle. So looks like Liccardo has just managed to hold off for teammate there in Ryan Smith. So 10th for Liccardo, 11th for Smith, 12th for Kiddis. That's going to mean Cox, did he take? Did he take in that last lap, or did something happen?
I'm going to have to go back and have a look now. Cox is not the person. No,
he's not the person that would take. Did he get past?
He's actually been. I said it. The battle to not be 13th. He got assisted wide at the back end of the tip by Kiddis.
Oh, there you go. So Kiddis still gets the front row start, but not the pole. The pole goes to Daniel Cox for the next race. So there you go. Very, very nice job by everybody. Very, very clean race, I must say. Apart from a couple of small little issues off track with a few drivers mostly self-inflicted, pretty clean.
Yeah, that was a pretty good race as it goes. Just having a look, actually, just for a comment from Matt Cecil, and I did see something odd pop up at mine.
Locke appears to have had some sort of a problem. Locke appears to have had some sort of an issue right towards the end of that race by the look of it. He was in that battle. He dropped down to 17th. He's actually been classified 17th, and his last lap time was a 29.9. So that's actually quite a slow lap for Locke.
Ah, okay. No, that's what happened. He's gone for a dive at the third to last corner, but gone way too late on the brakes. Probably locked it up as well. Sailed into the runoff, and that's what's dropped him down off the back of the train to 17th. But yeah, he was at risk for a second there of being the race 2 pole position.
All right, so Grossal's home in 14th then. Rory Collins on debut in the main game full time, 15th for him where he started. Foley only gained 3 spots out of that, so he started 19th and only got up to 3rd at the end of the day, so the soul searching for PBF because they finished in 16th and 23rd, Brody.
Yeah, it's
wow.
I did put together the team social media post today and yesterday and was waxing lyrical about, hey, this is the first time we've had the 2019 teams champions back under the same pit room since the end of 2020, and about how this will be a return to good fortunes. And I'm not saying it isn't, but a bit of a rocky start.
Yeah, I'd say a very rocky start. I don't think there's any ifs, buts or maybes about it. I think that's a very rocky start for PBF. And we're going to have to go and look at the point standings after this because I dare say that with the Walker win and Kiddis in 12th and then Wedding and Ross in 5th and 7th, I'd say that probably the BWT Pixel Sim Sport cars have probably got the team's points lead as it sits right now. And moving on to race number 2, they're probably going to be the ones to probably challenge again for a good point score in the next one.
Absolutely. Okay. Sorry, I just realised I should probably have started entering the points before now. So I'm
That's all right.
Trying to get as much of that in before the server ticks over.
That's all right. No, what we'll do is we'll refresh the server for your pleasure, so you can actually pull out those records, because that's one of the things with a new server. That's something that we didn't sort of touch on over the course of the off season, is that we did have to find a way to get our live timing all sorted and ready to go. And with the demise of live races, we've settled on rFactor 2 log analyzer, and there have been a few little things we've been working towards with that. So that's really a good product and something we've been very grateful to land on, and that's now our tool of choice. So moving forward, that's what we're going to end up using moving forward. It's not as great as there's a few little deficiencies that are still in there from what it was that we've come from, but it still does the job. Most importantly, I think that's what everybody's sort of keen about, is that it does do what it is required to do.
Absolutely, and yeah, it's been a little bit of a interesting change coming off of live races. I've still got bookmarks saved for a website that no longer exists. That's an interesting one to go back through. But yeah, just going to pull up the results now, and we can start looking at where the points graphics is. Well, we know where the points graphics is going to sit in order because we just watched that form. But
yes.
where it influences the teams championship.
That's right. So we're going to move things along. We'll keep things trucking along quite nicely tonight because, of course, it is a 3-race night, so we need to get through everything rather quickly. Because, of course, that race actually took a part of about 26 or so minutes. So you get that roughly into the night, there's going to be about, better part of 90 minutes worth of racing. So there's a lot of racing tonight that we do need to get through. So 25 cars started, 25 cars finished, so that's a good finishing record already. And a new winner in ASR Supercars as well to boot. So that'll be something that we may very well see repeated in this next race with a bit of the mixed up grid.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, based off of it's less likely to happen just purely from the point of view of the smaller grid, and a lot of the guys in the grid are already race winners. But we did have a situation. Well, actually, I don't think they weren't all new race winners in Dev Series, but they were all unique race winners for each race. So we could very much have happen again. But I think looking at the rest of the guys behind, I don't think Tara's picked up a win yet.
I'm not sure about that. I'll have to go and double check. There might have been a win change hands based on a penalty somewhere from last year, or it might have been a podium. I'll have to actually go and double check it. Noah has not crossed the line first outright in a race just yet. So that'll be something we'll have to keep an eye on this year. I'd be putting my money, whoops, as Cox has made a riot hash of the pit exit. That's not what I'm assuming we'll get the womp, 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 womp from everybody in the chat for that one. That's going to go into the blooper reel as a fail this year. And he's out there on the track. So drivers have been given instructions. They can go out for the next 6 or 7 minutes while drivers get back in and the grid gets set. We're just waiting on 25 all up. We do have 25 drivers in, and off we go in about 6 or so minutes with race number 2. So one of the things, I guess, that a lot of people that are probably watching the broadcast at home is are actually wondering, and there's been a few comments in the chat already, that yes, this is actually Automobilista 1. Yes, it is a little bit different, but compared to AMS2. But unfortunately, the modability of the AMS2 platform for what we require it for isn't quite there. Physics set isn't quite there for what we wanted either, and the old Go still goes along quite nicely. You know, does what we need to do. A lot of drivers are not too stressed about it from a graphical point of view. They're more interested in it from the handling and the feel, which is why it's there. So that's what why we're still using the platform that's been around for quite some time. Rumours going around about what's next for ASR. Possibly a look into R Factor 2, the GT3 series or the Endurance series this year, which is now the World Sports Car Championship, has fully gone that direction in 2024. We've been slowly getting that way, or heading that way over the last several seasons with our endurance discipline, so that's where that's going moving forward. But the rumour is about whether or not Gen 3 supercars will make an appearance on that platform at some point in time. That's the question I don't have an answer to at this stage. The other thing I think to think about too is, I know there's been a lot of publicity and a lot of people that have been keeping an eye on various modding communities and modding platforms. A number of different groups have already, brought a number of Gen 3 models to market for various platforms. I think I have seen one for R Factor 2, I believe. I've definitely seen one on the Assetto Corsa side of things, which is a bit of a contentious one, and probably not a topic that we want to go into at this particular point. But what I will say is there's been a few people already jumping in and asking a lot of questions about the Gen 3 mod, seeing the kind of work that's been put in and already trying to get their hands on a copy of it. I will stress this at the moment, that the first and foremost focus for ASR is, of course, the league, and currently it stands, it is a league mod. The league is full, or the series is currently full at the moment, so there isn't any availability to jump in and race these cars. A lot of the drivers in this series, they've earned the right by having competed in series with ASR for almost the whole entirety of 7 years in a lot of cases, and in some cases they've honed their craft in the development series. They've proven to be quick enough. They've jumped up and grabbed their opportunities and proven that they can race in the main game safely and without incident. So they've earned the right to jump in and race this series. There will be a public release at some point for the Gen 3 mod. It'll be at a point in time where the ASR team is happy with it. So a lot of the feedback that comes from the drivers over the course of the next couple of months with running the cars in the league and in this series, that'll be the feedback that we have to take a good hard look at, and if we need to make any further adjustments or some fine tuning, then that'll be what happens before they end up as a public release. So just for those that are tuning in for the first time, wondering how the hell I get my hands on these cars, at the moment it's not an option. It's not available for public consumption just yet, but something that has been worked on for quite some time. I'm sure you can appreciate the league wants first use of the cars. They want to have a chance to show them off and fine-tune them a bit more before they fall into the public domain.
Absolutely. Point sheets has just fixed the last of it. Now, unfortunately, the team's graphics isn't quite set up ready to go just yet, so we have to do a bit of head math off of the available points sheet. But if I sort that via that range, we've got an idea of the standings. So, rough bit of head math looking at this, I would suggest that Pixel are going to be leading the teams with Lewis bringing home 74 points and Rossi 64 points. Next best placed is probably SES Dark with 52 to Dane Liccardo and 48 to Ryan Smith.
That's 100 points even, right there.
Actually, no, sorry. The leading. Actually, let me do a quick 70, 68. the battle for the teams will actually be between Pixel and Wayne's World Motorsports, because Wayne's picked up 100 and Alex Kiedis picked up 46.
Yep, so it's 146 there, and I'd say that probably the BWT Pixel Sim Sport cars are probably not too far behind with a 5th place and a 7th place finish. They're probably going to be somewhere in the ballpark of about 120, 130 points. So they're probably not too far away.
It'll be 138, I think. So yeah, they'll be second.
Yeah, second by about 8 points as it sits at the moment. Early days in the championship, Brendan Ross has obviously done a lot with the point sheets over the last couple of seasons, so we don't have a full accurate sort of running brief throughout the night as to what the points are, but that just gives you a rough idea of where everybody is positioned. And of course, a lot of things will change in the next 17 laps that we're about to go through in about 2 or so minutes time, because time is ticking down. Drivers have been now given the signal that the minute that the clock strikes 0, there will be a change to get racing underway for race number 2. Reverse grid has been programmed. As we said, Daniel Cox has the pole for this one. Now, the part of the reverse grid element that we probably didn't touch on, Rhodey, is that you do need to be a finisher to be eligible for the reverse grid. So if we had a small grid, for example, and half the drivers didn't finish, or a large number of drivers didn't finish for whatever reason, those drivers that did not finish are actually excluded from the reverse grid. They are just basically said, nope, you just start where you actually finished.
Exactly. Like in practice, it's not going to make too much of a difference unless we have a really atrocious race. But yeah, it's just an important formality to keep in mind with the rule set. I'm just having a quick look at the chat before we kick into it. And
well, it didn't take too long.
Well, yeah, we just did a 1-1, but shout out to Berkey, who everyone was dealing with their own issues in that race. Berkey was dealing with a 4.3 magnitude earthquake, apparently,
wonderful.
during that race. So he's done a pretty good job to still come home with some points.
Well, he's out near the Warringamba Dam somewhere, I think, in New South Wales. So we'll have to have a look at the seismic activity after that one. And well, a bit that I was referring to about it not taking too long in the chat, Rhodey, was the fact that Jesse Bennett has already said that your maths is just as bad as your fuel numbers. So that's count number 1 if you're counting Rhodey's fuel number jokes at home this year, ladies and gentlemen. It's already made the chat.
He's lucky he's not on the Dev Series grid full-time this year, or I'd get him back for that at Albert Park. But anyway.
Yeah, okay, yes, anyway. We'll worry about that at another time, Rhodey. All right, gridding up for race number 2 here this evening. The half, or the top half inversion is the correct terminology for it, as we get underway with 25 cars. So Daniel Cox will be your man to start from pole position. First time on the front row for him since, I think, Development Series. It's been a while for him in the Envoy Super Camaro for CRE Anson Motorsport, with Alex Kiedis right behind him. He dropped out of the top 10 quite a bit like a stone at the beginning of that race, didn't quite get the jump, and is now found himself on the front row for this one. Then come the pair of SES Dark cars, so Ryan Smith and Dane Liccardo sharing a row. Lockie Burke, who we were just mentioning in that little bit of an earthquake, I'm sure there's a bit more rocking going on in his household than just an earthquake right now, with Anthony Green next door to him. Brendan Ross in the BWT Pixel Sim Sports number 444, alongside him Tim Redmond in the Beyond Racing Mustang. Will Devonish and Lewis Wedding, I think, are sharing a row. I think 10th for Devonish, yep, and 9th for Wedding, because they've just swapped positions there, so they really should be in chronological order. That's something that's been mentioned a few times over the past. Noah Turra, who finished 3rd in that one, the last one starts in 11th, with Kurt Stenberg alongside him in 12th. And then your winner from race number 1, Wayne Walker, right in the mid-pack. He's got a bit of work to do, so let's keep an eye on the race 1 winner. Leonard Grosser starts 14th, the first of the Renstall PBF Blackshaws cars. Rory Collins and Brent Foley 15th and 16th, so they'll be looking to move their way forward a bit more. Lockie Locke's going to be looking for a bit of a recovery drive here after being off the track a couple of times in race 1. Steve Warwick is 18th. Cam Rutledge and Darren Loughnane will share row number 10 at 19th and 20th. And then rounding out your field is Scott Murrell in the Luke McHugh Racing Monster Truck Promotions car. Peter Thrower for Beyond Racing, the number 56 Mustang. Phil Boak, who was first of the cars that was 1 lap down in the PBF Race Engineering Camaro. Termo, courtesy Marnus to his friends who had the puncture early on in race 1. And then Nathan Higginson, who opted for a soft tyre strategy, and unfortunately it did not pay off for him. Right, round to the grid we come.
Yeah, very interesting to see if anybody has gone for the softs in this race. I would be surprised if they're coming off, but I can already see Turbo is one on them, so it'll be interesting to see if that plays better for him today.
Let's soon find out. Race number 2 of the Winton triple header, the top half inversion. We've got 4 lights, we've got 5 lights. We've got a race start here in race number 2. Good launch from Liccardo from the second row of the grid. He got the best reaction of them all. Cox was very nicely off the line there as well. Beautiful conversion, whole shot. Liccardo shortcuts the chicane. He didn't gain a position over any cars, but did he gain an advantage out of that? I'm not 100% sure, Rody. You'd probably be a better judge of that than me. But he shortcut the chicane at turn number 1. And another good start for Burke, and also for Green too. So they've gotten right onto the back of Alex Kiedis, who again has a very ordinary start and has dropped a position. Not as bad as what it was at the beginning of race 1, but put himself into a whole lot of trouble. Got to strike while the iron's hot here if you're the likes of Lockie Burke, and no opportunity there at turn number 7.
Yeah, just noticed a little bit of leg spike there for Cox as well. He was thankfully pretty clear of the chasing cars, and if Dane picked up an advantage by shortcutting 1 and 2, he's since given that up. Cox has still got a pretty healthy little lead here, and Ricardo now leads, or is trying to pull away from this train that is now being led by Alex Kiedis in the Wayne's World Motorsport Mustang. But yeah, good to see the 2 of the Wayne's World Motorsport cars up towards the front. And we see Kiedis by virtue of the grid flip, but he's got Lockie Burke and Ryan Smith chasing him down. Kurt
Stenberg up 5 places. Just noticed him diving very, very handsomely underneath Tim Redmond at turn number 9 very smartly. He's wasting no time. Redmond's off the road. He's gone wide at turn number 11. Not sure if he was escorted or if it's a brake lock-up, but he's going to drop a pile of positions there. He's going to fall back in behind Noah Turra, who was 13th on the road at the start there. But Stenberg's the big mover at the moment, and right on the back of SES's own Anthony Green for SES Light. Now this will be an interesting, the young bull and the old bull, Rody. Where do you go? What do you look at here?
Yeah, I mean, based off what's on paper, I mean, one's a previous Supercars champion, one's a Super 2 runner who's moonlighting, well, he's got a registration, but he's effectively moonlighting in Supercars, but the pace in practice suggested different, the pace in qualifying suggested different, and you know what, I reckon Anthony could probably hold his own. Very much the younger driver, very much a slightly younger experience, just so as the bright blue mirror come back. It's also be one of Kiedis' mirror caps flying, so he's in a battle with Burke.
Watch Stenberg here. Watch Stenberg here, right around the outside. This is the trick that he pulled a lap or the other lap. There it is, up the inside there. Green actually left the door ajar. That's just inviting a pass down the inside at turn number 9. You don't want to do that to a former series champion.
You don't want to invite the pass, but at the same time, I think both Green and Smith probably have a bit of respect for where they sit in the pecking order. They might be as fast as Stenberg, but maybe they haven't quite earned Stenberg's respect just yet, to the point where things are going to play out in a different way. So very much probably just wanting to sidestep any potential arguments, save another day. But
this is getting interesting down here at the final corner. So Smith went underneath Alex Kiedis, and Stenberg will say thank you very much. He'll grab another one as well. Kiedis is not going to give this up though. Lock up from Stenberg. Big dive from Kiedis. Big margin there. Bit of argy-bargy on the outside of turn 2 as well. That usurps Kiedis. That allows the Autobahn entry of Anthony Green down the inside on the approach to turn 3. So good fight there from Kiedis. He's not giving an inch. Good to see that he's got his elbows out fairly early in this piece as well. His teammate, the pole sitter from race number 1, has worked his way only as far as 11th at the moment. So a little bit more of a patient game from race 1 winner Wayne Walker, tucked in here behind the 444 of Brendan Ross, who's just run a little bit deep at turn number 7. And is Walker going to be in position to go the long way round here like Stenberg has done? He's in there, and Ross, does he shut the door? No, he didn't quite shut the door. There's a little bit of contact, a little bit of clumsy contact. Noah Turra capitalises on that one. Have a check out Turmo. He started, what, second last?
Yeah.
Second last. He's up 11 spots. Looking to make it 12 in the Mobile 1 entry. Down the inside, he gets it done. Argy-bargy, elbows out. He's not taking any prisoners. He's on the white mark tyre. He's on the soft.
Yeah, what I was going to say is, like, if you're going to run the soft tyre, especially from that far back, this is what you need to do to try and make something of this race, because you're going to have to come through the lane at some point. Definitely, yeah, different man of race 1, and maybe perhaps trying to get back on how race 1 treated him. So, big
there's contact! There's some contact at turn 1. Liccardo goes for a ride. Who was that as well? Yeah, there's Liccardo Smith. There was a few cars off the road there, and there was a little bit of chaos at turn number 1. Lucky that there wasn't a safety car or something called in that one. That got very, very interesting very, very quickly. And look at this train. There's a massive train of cars heading up towards turn number 6 now. I'm going to go back and see if we can pick up what happened on the replay there, and we'll come back to it in just a few moments' time, because that was quite an interesting little bit of contact there. Look at this train, absolutely nose to tail, heading up towards turn, what have we got now? Turn number 8 and 9. If it settles down for a few seconds, we'll kick over to our Paint Doctor replay, which we're going to do right now. So check this out. This is what happened on the approach to 1. So Liccardo, innocent victim in this. Oh, big lock-up from cars behind. Actually, it was contact between the teammates.
Yep.
Between the 2 SES Dark cars. I think Smith was probably a little bit scared after seeing Lockie Burke with a massive lock-up, and Stenberg gazumped them all.
Yeah, so that's, in the end of... It's funny how that plays out. In the end of Liccardo trying to keep himself ahead of Burke, Smith goes for the dive and ends up taking out the pair of them. So I don't have to worry about the post-race debrief. That'll be going down very well currently in the SES group chat. But that's definitely going to have kicked a bit of fire into Ryan, a bit of fire into Dane, because he's now back behind Tony. The important bit for those guys, though, at least, is 3 of the 4 SES cars are in the top 7, so they're running very well in this race. But yeah, that's not what either of them will have wanted. It's promoted Burke to 3rd. It's Stenberg through, and Stenberg is now trying to do his best to chip into Cox, and Cox isn't of the same pace that we saw from Wayne Walker in race number 1, but no, he's not exactly falling over either. No,
well, this is like a shark in the water, isn't it? Stenberg has done the hard work, benefited massively from the infighting in SES Dark and the calamity that was a lap ago at turn 1 and 2. And this is like blood in the water for him. He will be hunting down Cox pretty quickly. I think the margin's little over 1.4 seconds at the moment. There's nothing in it. And with virtually no competition right behind them at the moment, apart from the squabbling SES team cars, Stenberg's going to chop into this, I'd say, pretty quickly.
Yeah, I was just having a quick look at the chat, and I appreciate Jesse pointing out for us that Higa was up 7 spots, and then correcting that he was up 7 spots, because he's since fallen back to 24th again, so he's probably another Higa moment. But yeah, that was a good start from Higa to get to that point. SES clearly not a fan of bringing up the team beef, but I'm not the one that started it. It'll be the 2 on track that have started. I'm just merely making mention of it. But no, there's a good little charge coming out now. Smith has gotten back past Burke, so he's maybe not trying to buy in on Kurt, but at least trying to break away from Burke. Sort of floating mirror, that was interesting. But yeah, so the next challenge then for Burke will be Kiedis, who's very much, I would have said Kiedis, but he's not really...
Smith with a bit of a wide moment coming through turn number 5, and Burke not close enough to capitalise.
Yeah, wow. No, so as I was finishing off, I was just saying that Kiedis is, based off race 1 pace, maybe not quite in this battle, but like he's as we said earlier, he's not giving them an inch. He's very much fighting them for the position, even if on pace they're entitled to it more than he is. He's giving them a genuine fight for it, which is what you want to see. It's better the guys, especially for learning and how to interact with other drivers, if you make them earn the position and make them fight you for it, and seeing how the other drivers race you, and just be very beneficial data for Kiedis being his very first night in the series.
Yeah, so he's tucked in behind Lockie Burke here at the moment. So just third car in the queue there is the highlight blue and black Mustang, Wayne's World Motorsport. Actually, where is Wayne Walker? He's gained an extra spot, Walker, so he's up to 10th. There's your fastest lap, Kurt Stenberg, 24.8. So he's wasting no time chopping into the advantage of the number 94 of Daniel Cox, who has led 6 laps now. This is lap number 7, so you'll be pleased to lead a couple of laps. I think just be pleased to come home and get a really nice result here if you can. But it's almost academic now. It's almost like, when is it going to happen, Rhodey? I think that's the thing we're looking at right now, isn't it? When is the pass going to happen?
Exactly. It'll depend on how much Cox is going to put up a defensive fight versus just trying to run his fastest line. I would expect it to probably happen in the last couple of corners. That said, Stenberg might be trying over and under.
Yeah.
It's not quite working out.
So much more pace though. But look, this Cox will defend the inside here. and that's quite smart. But then over and under, just to faked it out, I think, there as well. So now Cox needs to leave a bit of room, a little bit of a nudge there, but there's nothing to stress about there. That's quite easy. Oh, actually, Kurt's giving it up. Kurt's like, nope, I don't want to do you like that. So he'll let Cox back by. That's actually really good sportsmanship, I think. Didn't want to do a dirty and consolidate the pass with a bit of contact. So that means that Cox has earned his respect.
Yeah, there's that as well, and also the fact that Stenberg's got still half the race left to go to pass one car. So he very much, he could have been in a position there where that could have resulted in a small penalty. Very much the better play for him to wait and do it properly.
That's right. So further down the field, let's look and see how some of the other drivers have been progressing. So Lockie Lock has not made any ground in this one, and actually starting to lose a little bit of touch with Brent Foley, who's just a couple of car lengths up the road. But the interesting part of that equation there, Roach, is Brent Foley, and he's just in front of him is Brendan Ross is down 8 spots after all of that. So I'm not sure what's happened to Ross in the last couple of laps. But
yeah,
he's gone. Oh, the car's disagreeing with him. Look at that, going through turn 5 and 6. Lap times haven't been stellar. The opening lap for him was a 36.7, but he's had several laps in the middle of the pack that were in the middle of the race so far that were 27s and 28. So I'm just wondering if it's just caught up in traffic, been escorted wide a little bit, or poor start, or something. But whatever the case, just hasn't converted for the 444 machine. Oh, look at that. Big lockup as well going into turn number 10. So just pushing the envelope a bit too much.
Yeah, it's very much the mid... Oh, hang on, I've just noticed something as well, actually. Cox has dropped back to 4th.
Yeah, so I think Cox is right.
And Liccardo's off the road in the second last corner.
Yeah, so he was actually. I just did see Liccardo off the road there, second last corner. So I don't think there's been any contact there, because Liccardo was quite some distance back. He's gone all the way back to 18th in all of that. And I think for Cox, his last lap was 29.2, so he's just made a mistake somewhere on that one. That's allowed Stenberg through. Ryan Smith's gone through to second, and then Lockie Burke's actually now on the podium.
Yeah, so I just went out had a look at Liccardo. He received he was in a pretty heavy battle with Wayne Walker, and perhaps received a bit of an assist, but that's as far as I'll make that call. But yeah, Dane's been in a pretty heavy battle most of the race, just sort of falling off the bike and trying to get back on it again. But what that has done is that's pushed him out of that battle pack, and yeah, it's opened things up a little bit as well. Devonish now on the back of the train for what is now 5th place, with Cox leading that one, so green through on him as well, and Tara's probably a corner or two off of doing something similar. Yep,
he is, and I think Tara's now looking down the inside here at turn 10. Cox will leave him a bit of room, and at the same time, Devonish is having a go on Alex Kiedis there at turn 10. Neither driver could get that done, so it goes to show you that passing in this third generation of supercars is not easy, and more so at Winton. It gives a bit of free air now to Daniel Cox. Stenberg hasn't really cleared out a lot here, but good lap there, 23.996, so lowers the benchmark a little bit more. He's got a handy 1.3 seconds over Ryan Smith. Didn't think we'd be cool. Oh, bit of door handle banging between these two Mustangs just through turn 1 and 2, and the teammate in Wayne Walker is just eyeing off a piece of the prize here if these two trip over themselves. So this is for 7th and 8th. Walker's now up to 9th, having started 13th. So he's just progressed through fairly nicely, just picking up points with every pass that he goes. He's not trying anything too risky. And then maybe he'll have be in a good position to have a look at a result in race number 3. Bit of Morse code there on the back of Kiedis by Devonish. So up through the Gumtree section of the corner, which is the politically correct name for this part of the track. It also is affectionately known as a part of the female anatomy. I don't know why it got that name, but yeah, it certainly did. Oh.
It's probably just the shape of the track, and just yeah. I would say named by men.
Yes, I think I'll go with that one. Yes, I would agree.
Yeah.
Okay, Tara is now through on Daniel Cox, so that moves Tara up to 5th place. So he's had a good run too, up 6 positions there. You were talking him up too, Roddy. You were saying he's probably one of the ones we're going to keep an eye on this year for a potential race win.
Yeah, quite possibly. And like I was saying earlier, at least off of what we saw in practice and qualifying. Possibly the quickest quickest redriver out of the gate this year, and very much backing that up. Cox had a good run there, but he's obviously dropped back behind him now. And Will's been charged up through the field, but I'm pretty sure currently it's a 2-zip for Noah finishing ahead of Will in races. Granted, we've still got 6 laps left to go, 7 laps left to go of this one. But he's had a really good turn of pace, and Will, interestingly for all the time he's put in, isn't quite adapting the way that I thought he would. And it's weird because practice like a week ago, Will wasn't too far off of the pace of some of the other drivers, but it just quite hasn't come to fruition. The only thing I would say is the times he was doing were with 10% of the fuel left and everyone else was doing race runs. But yeah, it's what is perhaps Will's loss is definitely Noah's gain.
Oh, that's close. That's super close. There was some contact there. This is getting very willing as Devonish had finally made his way past Alex Kiedis, and he's now struggling just to clear Cox, but he'll get that done now because he's able to hold the ground on the outside going down to turn number 10 to turn number 11, but this is still quite an angry pack at the moment.
Absolutely, fastest lap again for Coast MX. He's running to get 80 air gap ahead of the SES cars, but yeah, it was interesting. Just looking at how things are playing out now, we've got a few more of these race formats that come across the year, a few more triple headers with reverse grids. I think these are going to be, if anything, the championship size this year because it's really a deciding factor on who can get through the field. Stenberg was second in race 1. He's currently first and by 11 seconds over previous race winner Walker.
Yeah, by 11 seconds, back to Walker,
Yeah.
I was going to say. Yes, who's actually just... Oh, some contact! And there goes Kiedis and a big spin. There's contact there between Cox and Kiedis, and I don't know if that was wheels interlocking or something there. Oh, and Foley arrives on the scene as Kiedis is trying to recover and has to put the anchors on. Was that was Foley, wasn't it? Yes, it is.
Yep.
So, bit of a nasty incident there between the two of them. Be interested to have a look at that one on the Paint Doctor replay and have a bit more of a look at what happened here. So, coming down into turn 4, Cox had been passed by Walker, and that's just a and it got Brendan Ross at the same time as well, but lucky to survive. So that's an awkward coming together, and I don't think there's much that to complain about with the rejoin there. There's really not much that Foley could have done.
Yeah,
Kiedis could have done, actually, I should say.
Exactly. Yeah, the cause of that was just wheel-to-wheel contact, which I will say seems to maybe just what it probably is everyone having driven the cars the last couple of years. Again, you mentioned in the qualifying that people are used to the width of them. These are a little bit wide, especially at the rear. Definitely a bit more of an arrow as it comes to the track of the cars as opposed to the previous gen cars. That was a rear wheel to rear wheel, overlap and interlock, and that probably wouldn't have happened for either of them if they were driving last year's cars because they're still used to that. So something the drivers have to get used to this year is the cars are a little wider, so they have to get a little more room to the car next to them to avoid interlocking wheels.
Yeah, there was a fair bit of just a bit of elbows out, I think, there, and that's just something that drivers are going to have to use over the course of the next 11 rounds, or the 11 rounds that make up the series. Is that they're just got to be prepared that these cars are definitely wider than their counterparts for the last several seasons. They just need to be mindful of the keep in perspective where everybody actually is. It is a little bit more difficult, and the seating position doesn't help either. A bit more difficult to see out of the front of these cars. As we're going to go up and have a look here because Anthony Green is catching the back of Lockie Burke, who's desperately trying to hold on to a podium here, and the timing's absolutely perfect for us because the mistake for Burke is the gain for Green, and through he goes into a podium position at turn 11 and 12.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's happening there for Burke. The way the thing was driving, it looked like it was feeling a bit second-hand on its tyres, but he's running the same hard compound as Green is. So maybe there's a difference in setup, and a little bit of, potentially a little bit of smack in the chat earlier from Jesse towards the BWT guys with in reference to car setup. It's not so much a car setup thing for BWT and Pixel, it's just the way to get a fast setup out of cars in general, AMS, can be to get a really twitchy, really situationally dependent car, and that's perhaps where Berkey's at, and is just the car's at the back end of its tyre life, and it's set up so specifically for its mid tyre life or its peak tyre life that it's really not reacting nicely now, as opposed to Green, where with a slightly more limited setup, he's got a wider tyre operating window to work with.
Yeah, he certainly does. So Noah Tara's now catching this little group, and Will Devonish is not too far away either, so there might be a couple more positions to change hands here over the next couple of laps. There's only 3 more after this for all the drivers that are out there on the circuit at the moment, and we still have everybody, so that's the important thing I've been really pleased to see, is despite the new cars, they are taking a pounding. We've normally had, 1 or 2 DNFs a race, but we've actually had all 25 cars finish race 1. Everybody's still going at the moment. And this time, everybody bar 1 on the lead lap, which is, unfortunately, is Scott Murrell, who's been through the pits, it looks like, because his last lap was a 2:27.7.
Yeah. I think we just caught him exiting the pits as we were watching the battle coming back through. But
there we go.
Yeah, a little bit of a run through the grass for Burke as well. I did see Jesse suggesting in the chat another earthquake, which is entirely possible for Burke. But that's probably the other reason. The other thing though is those tyres are not looking great. He's just essentially coughed up a spot there to Devonish as well.
Yes, indeed. So we're watching Tim Redmond for a second there, and you're right. Burke's doing his best to hang on here, and he's coughed up a spot now to Tara. Devonish will have a little bit of a look down the inside here. A little bit of accidental contact. What's going on there? Burke almost ground to a halt. I don't know what was going on there, but Walker got the pair of them. So, I don't know. I'd hate to be a judge here. Oh, there's some little bit of contact. We've got Locke and is that Collins? Yep, Rory Collins and Lockie Locke off the road down at turn 7. This is on the final, the second or third last tour here for these guys. So there's been a little bit more contact, and we're going to find out who the aggressor is. Coming down here, is this a case of 2 to 3 doesn't go? No, I think that's unfortunately going to be fairly square on Locke. Foley ran into it as well. Redmond got through, and there's a bit of a time loss there for both cars. So that's that one's on Lockie Locke, unfortunately.
Yeah, I was nearly to make mention of the fact that the way that Rory was quietly tracking along, the exception now is where Dane's running, but Rory's been quietly tracking along to get himself into a top 10. He was pretty close there for a bit, and then that happened. But I thought, no, that's all right. I won't say anything because I've had a cursing cards if I mention that they're doing well. I'll just let him quietly work into the 10 before I mention it, and then we get the chance. But even with that incident, Rory's had actually a pretty good run. He's picked up a couple of spots, not in a huge amount, but he's just kept himself in the fight. Not going for big results at least tonight. But
here we go. Oh, that's a send and a half from Devonish there, good situational awareness from Burke there. Opened the door and just let him go through, and then just said thank you very much and cut back underneath. So try as he might, the 2023 Series champion is struggling to pass the young bull here in the pixelated Elf Autosport machine. The sister car though, we were having a bit of it. Been watching this with vested interest, Rody, because Turbo tore through the field on the soft tyre, but now that soft is starting to cry foul. And look at this, look, big black licorice strips being left out of turn number 10. He went from 10th to 15th in about 200 metres.
Yeah, this is the problem, is he made a really good charge of it, but soft tyres are going to run out. It's not like the hards where they become less good. They just physically do not operate anymore. Yep. He's done a really good job getting them this far, but he's going to have to pit. And
the lock up there as well. Ketis down the inside, sees the opportunity. That's easy picking. It's like picking the carcass, or the meat off the carcass, basically. It's very, very easy at the moment for them. And this is the thing, if you're going to run the soft tyre, look at that for a lap time, 31.3. If you're going to run the soft tyre, you have to look after it. You've got to know when to use it, and you've got to know when to preserve it. It's like the old Texas poker, right? You've got to know when to hold them, you've got to know when to fold them. Turmo right now is just being absolutely mugged here by both Liccardo and by Locke, who actually gets a 2-for-1 special. He gets two positions in 2 corners there as they head up to turn number 5.
Yeah, it's one of those things where if it was, we don't run complete mirror formats between Dev and Supercars, but if there's a 14-lap race, Turmo would be in a really good spot.
Yeah, but you're absolutely right.
A few laps longer, which is what swings the window from being a soft, hard tyre race to probably one that I would be very surprised if the entire field is at least thinking about hards for race 3, based on how the softs have not performed.
That's right. Kurt Stenberg, welcome back to the top step of the podium. It's been a little while. I think good couple of... Actually, I don't think Kurt got a win last year, if memory serves me correctly. I don't think he was in our Supercar series. He was in the Enduros. And it's been a while for wins for Kurtz. I think probably a better part of maybe 12 months, if memory serves me correctly. So good to see back on top step of the podium. Ryan Smith, maiden podium for him in Supercars for Sideways Esports Dark. Very, very nicely done. Same for Anthony Green for Sideways Esport Light. So SES get a couple of podiums here on debut in the main game at round one of ASR Supercars 2024. So very nice job from the Mustangs. Speaking of Mustangs, Noah Tara up to fourth, so he might be a threat in race number 3. So too might Wayne Walker. So there's going to be 4 Mustangs right behind Kurt Stenberg at the beginning of the next race. And Lockie Berg managed to keep Will Devonish at bay there. So he gets home for 6th, and it was only a tenth of a second, or less than a tenth of a second in it at the line. So that's a very, very nice defensive hold from Lockie Berg over the 2023 Series champion. Lewis Wedding home for 8th. And Daniel Cox started on the pole, faded to 9th, so he'll take that. That's a top 10 finish for him. Who got 10th? Brenton Foley managed to capitalise on all the chaos and come home in 10th.
That's a pretty good run, actually, for Foley.
Very nice job.
As I said, rocky start, but that's a slightly better turn of fortune for him.
Yes, certainly is. So he gets home there, so you can see on screen there, Redmond, after being sort of shunted out of commission a little bit earlier with that mistake down at turn number 11. He comes home in 11th place, so we'll be looking for a few more points in this next one. And behind him you had Rory Collins, who said was tracking for a good top 10 if he didn't have that little bit of contact with Locke toward the end of the race. Darren Loughnane, actually, he went along rather quietly, and we haven't called his name very often tonight in the Vortex Racing Team entry. The only one of those cars here tonight, because the second one belongs to Bailey Hall, who's unfortunately not able to make it tonight. Oh, that's a bit adventurous from Ricardo in the pits, and might catch the ire of the stewards. But no, we haven't called Darren Loughnane's name tonight. Up 7 places, up to 13th from 20th.
I think only mentioned him in the run through on the formation lap. So yeah, he's very much a quiet runner, but yeah, he's done a good job getting himself up to 13th. Yeah,
he's done a very nice job there. Stayed out of trouble. Looks like it was a pretty clean looking car there. And Grossel is home in 20th. Actually, I don't think he was. He was only 2 seconds ahead of Steve Warwick at the end of the day. So it hasn't been a good night for the Renstall PBF Blackshaws machines, but they finished the race. Importantly, everybody finishes the race and gets points. So that's the take we take out of that one. As we get ready and we go into a bit of a holding pattern here, we get ready for race 3 in a little bit. So, Roddy, let's digest really quickly the opening couple of races. We've seen 2 different race winners, a couple of different podium sitters, so we're off to a good start in the Gen 3 era.
Absolutely, yeah, just trying to get the points in now, but as things at the top of the pile, Stenberg with first and second is now jumped Wayne Walker. Tara sits in third with a third and a fourth, and Anthony Green as a Super 2 runner is fourth in the standings.
Wow.
Currently.
That is that's huge.
So, I saw a comment earlier from Specky in the chat about the P word, and I mean, we can't adequately promote. And look, Winton's a similar curveball, I think, to what Calder was last year. I don't think it's entirely fair to throw a P word around after one round, but I mean, Albert Park round 2, Hamilton round 3. If we start to see a bit of a pattern forming, Anthony might have one less car to drive this year.
Well, the problem we have with Anthony Green is, yes, he is doing both series at the moment, and he's eligible for both series because he is fast enough. That's the important thing there. It's a bit hard to promote somebody when they're probably going to miss a good chunk of the Supercars rounds, I think, anyway, because himself and a couple of others' real-world commitments have unfortunately gotten in the way with their involvement with Tickford Racing, so in the Supercars land. So that does unfortunately take them out of a couple of opportunities to go racing. So we're expecting them to do most of their season in the development series, and then maybe we look at them coming up full-time next year. But that being said, the rule has always been for some time in the development series that if you effectively start to dominate the series, then the P word is imminent.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, that's the thing. It very much could be a situation where the Gen 3 physics simply suit Green better than the Gen 2 cars, because he was quick last week, but I don't remember him. He might have picked up a win, but with 3 different winners, he definitely didn't pick up a clean sweep, which, based on how he's going tonight, you'd suggest that he would probably be clean sweeping if he was comfortable in the cars in the same way. So that's potentially what it is. Maybe it's a situation where the Gen 3 physics suit him better. Maybe it's simply the fact that he drives a car better when he actually do a setup on it, which he has the option to do here. He doesn't have the option to do nearly as much in Dev Series.
Well, that's the bit that I'm sort of looking at as well, I guess, from that point of view. Now, speaking of Dev Series, the drivers obviously are aware that they are racing next week at Albert Park. So Albert Park, for those that are interested for watching it, actually got a really good reception on the live stream with Loose Sim Network last week, which was, I can't remember what the numbers were, but it was astronomical for a first season launch. It was really good to see. So many people tuning into that stream, so we do thank you everyone that did tune in for that, and likewise we hope you're tuning in here tonight as well, or that if you're a driver, you'll actually be watching this back at some point in the night. But they are racing at Albert Park next week, Loose Sim Network, so next Friday night, the Albert Park round. It is what we call, it's a different format for this year. It's a short and long format. So what that means is there's one short race and there's one long race or longer race. So from development series point of view, the first race is a sprint, which is 8 laps, or 42 kilometres for the Dev Series, and then it's 16 laps or 84 kilometres in race number 2. So possibly going to facilitate some pit stops in that one. And then just a week later, the Supercars, they'll do 10 laps for the sprint race, which is 53 Ks, and 19 laps, which is 100. So that's another one of the different formats this year that a few people are sort of starting to look at and pay attention to and go, that's actually a little bit different compared to what it was last year. So there are a few differences this year with the triple header format, with the middle race being the reverse grid component in there, or the half reverse grid component in there. The 2 races where there's one short, one long. There's also the same format we had last year with the 2 equal distance races, but this year that actually features a top 10 shootout in there as well. And you were talking about some of the races, Rhodey, and the fact that the triple headers were probably going to decide some of the championships. I'll tell you the rounds where they are locked in for at the moment. So, of course, Winton tonight. Then the next one is the Bend Motorsport Park, which is May the 10th, round 4. So that's a 15-lap event for Supercars, but it'll be a couple of laps shorter for Dev. Everything to keep in mind I'm announcing now is a couple of laps shorter than Dev. The next one of those doesn't come up until we get to Taupo in November at this stage. That's November the 8th, so that'll be 3 16-lap races. For Supercars, that's round 10. For Development Series, it's round 12. But importantly, the international round, which is slated for August 16th for Supercars, and for Development Series, it is slated for the week prior, which will be the 9th of August. Those are not locked in terms of the race formats just yet, so there is still plenty of time for drivers to work out what track they want to vote for and whether or not they actually want to see the back of these triple header formats a bit sooner, or if they actually like the fact so much they want to have another round where we do that triple header format. So the front runner, I wouldn't say the front runner, but there was actually a lot of circuits that got nominated. A couple unfortunately did get eliminated after the vote was or the suggestion box was opened, but there will be a vote going up for drivers over the weekend to start casting their votes on what tracks they would like to see as the international round. They only get one choice, so they've got to choose wisely. I think the front runners, a couple of the front runners that came up in the votes there was about 3 or 4 votes out of about 40 or 45 drivers that voted for Spa-Francorchamps. Got quite a few votes, and that wouldn't obviously be hard to fit the bill for sprint racing at Spa, because the races would virtually only be about 5 laps long or 6 laps long. It wouldn't be that short a distance at all, really. And the fan favourite from last year in Watkins Glen, the short with the chicane, that was a big hit last year and got quite a few votes as well. And Laguna Seca was another one that got quite a few votes as well. So 2 circuits out of those list of 3 there that could fit the bill for some triple header racing quite nicely.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a wide selection of tracks that are on the list, and it'll be interesting to see where that goes. I know there's some vested interest in places. I know there was a big interest last year from certain teams, and nothing wrong with it in trying to get Monza up. That is back on the list again this year, and look, I can see Monza producing some good racing. There is a good contingent out there that are going to want to see Watkins back again. That is on the list again. We're not, at least at this stage, we're not averse to the idea of going back to Watkins again. If we end up doing international run at Watkins 4 or 5 years in a row, then we might mandate them to take us a year off. But it produced some really good racing last year, something really different as well. And I know from where I sit that I've had a chat with a few guys about some livery concepts, and Foley and I have had a talk about some liveries we would like to do at some point in Supercars, but they require a visit to the Sunrise Land, of which one track is available there. That is Japan that I'm talking about, and Autopolis is on the list. And I would know because I'm the one that submitted it the last 2 years in a row. And we've just lost both years. We've kicked into the race.
I was about to say, literally just as the server ticked over, and that's always the way, isn't it, Rody? It's just, It's a long night. It's 10 o'clock here local time on the eastern seaboard with the daylight savings, obviously. Queensland, it's an hour behind. It's only 9 o'clock. Over in Perth, it's only just gone 7. Across the ditch in New Zealand, it's actually midnight. So we have got a few New Zealanders tuning in, and also that are keeping up with the racing tonight as well. So it is getting a little bit late there, but that's why we put it on Friday nights now, isn't it? Because we know that it makes for a little bit easier for people to go racing on a Friday than it does sort of any other day of the week.
Absolutely, yeah. And yeah, it opens a possibility up for these guys, and also, well, actually, I say it does and it doesn't for the international guys, but that's really what more the RF2. I was about to say GT3, but it's not GT3. It's the World Sports Car Championship. I think we're calling it this year. That's set up very nicely. That'll be I think a Saturday night European/American time. I know that I've got one mate of mine from the States interested in potentially racing.
I did see him jump into the server the other day.
Well, yeah, sorry, no. So you saw Cal Master jump in. That's Will, but Brad was talking to me last week about jumping into the remaining prototype as well. But no, a few other guys. I was about to mention another one, and we've just lost Pete as well. So the PC has done a good job holding out till now. They're just all giving up now. So we are going to see a second restart there to try and get Pete Thrower back in.
Yes, so it's getting up there a little bit, and you're right. We still have got, actually speaking of some of the other series that we do have running, they got the Track Day Cup, which is effectively the social series. That's coming up in, I think it starts next week. There's a test night next week, Rody. Correct me if I'm wrong.
There is, at the moment there is a planned test night. I am waiting on a couple of things. I've got somebody hopefully testing some physics for me over the weekend so that I can actually put them into the pack. But if that doesn't work out, then we'll have to push that a little bit. But yeah, the plan is to have a test night on Wednesday night, and then the season will start, I think it's another 2 weeks from there, with a double header at Calder Park, and then at which track? It's a Kiwi track. It's I can't remember what it's called now. But we are Hampton Downs. Yeah, sorry. So we are following the Supercars format in that way, as such, in that we're starting in Australia, then heading over to New Zealand, and we will be doing something similar in that we're finishing our season in New Zealand as opposed to Supercars, which is finishing with a round in New Zealand before a round back in Australia. But so Calder Park and Hampton Downs at the start of the round, at the start of the calendar, and we've got Pukekohe as the season finale.
Yes, we certainly do. All right. Hopefully that is that for getting everybody in for the final race of the night. Everybody looks like they have made it in, and race number 3 not too far away from starting. So bit of a long night, bit of a long introduction to Gen 3, but so far a rip-roaring success, and still 17 more laps to go. Saw a couple of drivers that have gambled on the soft. It hasn't quite paid off, but it looks like the hard tyre, I think, is just about going to be fitted to everybody here, I would say, but be prepared for a couple of surprises. I'm not sure if someone's going to be the old riverboat gambler and try and throw on a set of softs and make their way through the field, but we'll find out in the next couple of moments as Rhodey rolls through the grid as they get ready to leave in the next couple of seconds. So everybody's there on the track. It's one more race to finish out the night. Here we go.
Alrighty, starting off of pole is Kurt Stenberg in the number 47 Anticol Autosports car, taking the championship lead with him into the start of race 3. Alongside him is Ryan Smith, very much one of the dark horses for tonight, running for SES Team Dark. But he's had a very good run so far tonight. We're interested to see how he goes in race 3. Starting from third is Anthony Green, another good runner as well, and I saw some support for him in the live chat as well, but good run from those two in race number 2. Fourth is Noah Turra. Very good run so far for Noah tonight as well, picking up some good points and definitely on paper the best CRE driver tonight. Fifth is Wayne Walker, not quite the recovery that Kurt Stenberg had back through the field in race number 2 for Walker, but he's still in a good spot. With a good launch off the grid, he'll be able to get himself back into the range of 47. Sixth is Lachlan Burke for the only pixelated Elf Autosport car tonight. He's had a pretty good run. Branch been scrapping on with some of the SES drivers who he starts behind for this one. Will Devonish starting from 7th. Bit of a quiet night, all things considered, for a car running the number 1 on the windows, but maybe the car's not quite coming to him the way that they have in previous seasons. 8th is Lewis Wedding. He's kept himself quietly up there in the top 10, with Daniel Cox holding on to finish 9th in that second race, and Brenton Foley recovering very nicely into 10, so we're interested to see if he can keep there in race 3. 11th is Tim Redmond for Yon Racing. He's had a pretty good run, staying out of a lot of the mess where possible. Rory Collins, quiet little run for him, up a few spots to finish 12th in race number 2. 13th is Darren Logden, who gets a mention again. Hopefully we'll talk about more about him in this race for the Vortex Racing team. 14th is Brendan Ross, not quite the race he wanted there. 15th is Alex Kiedis for Wayne's World Motorsport. He's also come a cropper in race number 2. Lockie Locke is starting from 16th position. Dan Liccardo out of 17th, he'll make his way up the grid. Kosek Marnus on the hards this time out of 18th. Phil Boak out of 19th. Leonard Grossel from 20th. Steve Warwick from 21st. Pete Thrower from 22nd. Cam Rutledge out of 23rd. Nathan Higginson starting from 24th again. And Scott Murrell this time out of 25th in the Liquid Racing number 22.
All right. Let's get this show on the road. It is the final race of the night. Race 3 of the Winton triple header. Kurt Stenberg on pole. Ryan Smith alongside. We are just waiting on a couple of lights to turn green, and they're not quite there just yet. One driver out of position. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Count it down with me. We are away. Very, very short hold. Ryan Smith with the jump, if you don't mind. He's going to lead them into turn 1. Converted beautifully from the grippier side of the grid, and that would have been a bit of a shock to the system for Kurt Stenberg. He's so used to launching cars quite handsomely off of pole position. Definitely probably wouldn't have expected that, but Shark smells blood in the water, and Shark wants position number 1 back very, very quickly.
Absolutely, very much flying straight back in there. Brilliant start for Ryan Smith. The absolute inverse Wayne Walker on the wrong side of the grid and buried back in the pack. He's actually, I don't think he's lost a spot, but he's lost a lot of ground already to Kurt Stenberg. He's currently stuck up behind Noah Turra with one of the Pixel cars. That will be Lewis tucked in behind him. And Will Devonish flying in there. That's a massive log jam actually right back there to the back of the top 10.
Yeah, have a look at this. Darren Loughnane has lost a spot. We were calling his name a little bit earlier at the end of that last race. He's only lost a spot there, but held on as best as he can with some of these faster cars coming through. Already the first non-finisher of the series in a race is Cam Rutledge. Looks like the car's only made it a handful of metres off the grid, and then something's gone wrong for the CRE number 015. So unfortunately, we're not going to go 3 races with everybody finishing the race or the round or the night. It's unfortunately a DNF for Cam Rutledge. Here we go, Liccardo up 4 spots. Now on the back of Collins. Is there going to be some team orders in play here between SES Light and Dark? I think there is. And Liccardo is afforded some space by Collins, and that's actually really smart. I like what he did there. He just eased the throttle back nicely, fell back into position so he could have the line for turn number 1. No sense of fighting and arguing going down into turn number 1 and 2. Did the right thing, did the team thing, did the smart thing.
Exactly. They are fighting over position and points here, but they really want to be in that scrabbling over 4th and 5th if they're going to do it anywhere, rather than over 12th and 13th. Dane's going to come back through the pack, and perhaps really trying to have a quiet run aspect tonight, very much trying to pick up on other people's mistakes.
Yes, I think you're doing. He's doing a very wonderful job at the moment, just going along, minding his own business, and this is what he did last year as well. He just went along and minded his own business and picked up positions where he could. Lockie Burke's had a great start, 3rd row of the grid. He's up to position 3, actually ahead of Tara and ahead of Green, who I think must have made a mistake on the opening lap because he was 3rd in the queue behind Stenberg and Smith at the beginning of the race as they head down into turn 2, 3 and 4. And he's dropped back behind a couple of drivers here and is actually starting to be harassed by Wayne Walker, who's had an average start. He's only lost a spot, but he wants position 5 back pretty quickly because Burke got past him. That's the only spot that Walker's lost, and not close enough here, but a little bit of a skip through the corner for Anthony Green, and he's got a mirrorful of a purple and yellow Mustang GT heading down towards turn 1. But Walker's quite patient. This is what I've liked about his driving so far tonight, Rod. He's been very patient, very measured. Oh, the same can't be said for what's going on back here.
Yep. Yeah, I very nearly watched the death of Will Devonish at the hands of Lewis Wedding there. I don't think that was intended, but they were. But yeah, Will found just how much car width there is between the 89 and the outside wall at turn 2, and it was about a car's width, but not much more.
Well, let's have a look. Let's have a look. Let's see how close this for comfort this actually got. So there was a mistake from Wedding, locked in the braking zone, and yep, that's where the mirror went flying. And I reckon Devonish got left a bit of a witness mark on the concrete fence there at turn number 2.
Yeah, that's about as hard as you want to be fighting through there. From a former series champion and somebody who's very much been trying his best to get there, but yeah, the 2023 Drivers Champion and one of the 2023 Teams Champions there in a big scrap between ASR admins.
That's right. So now, if you're Kurt Stenberg, you've got to strike fairly soon, I think, because Lockie Burke's doing a really nice job here of holding up probably a much faster Noah Turra, in the same vein that Anthony Green's doing a very nice job of holding up a very, very fast Wayne Walker. The minute these guys get past the next couple of cars, they're going to start to make tracks. So if you're SES Team Dark, do you hold up Kurt Stenberg for as long as possible to try and let the other guys catch up and join the fight, or do you just put the hammer down and go? Right now, if you're Ryan Smith, you've got an absolute mirrorful of Anticol Autosport Camaro. He's going to have to defend here. He's going to have to defend up to turn number 7. He's going to have to park it right down the inside, right down the left, the right-hand side of the track. And he parks it right down the middle. That's a very, very good option there. Now he leaves the door ajar. He's got to be so careful. He's got to pick his line so carefully, and he's got to close the door very, very early at every opportunity. So move it over to the right-hand side here. Take a slower line through the corner. That checks Stenberg up. And then you've got to play the defensive one. You've got to run it all the way down the left-hand side here, but he opts not to do it. So, and Stenberg actually doesn't take the opportunity there to stick his nose up and start to, to make a move. But he's applying a bit of pressure. There we go. Turra has cleared Lockie Burke. So now this is important for Smith. And actually, it's very important for Noah Turra. If he can hold up Stenberg for a couple more laps, that's going to let Noah Turra close right in on the Anticol Autosport 47.
Yeah, and we're interested to see. We've already seen battle lines being drawn over the past few years of ASR Supercars competitions, and we know where most of the big teams sit relative to each other and where drivers sit relative to each other. SES are the big wild card. They've got friends in a few different teams across the field, but they haven't really outlined where their allegiances lie. The fact that Ryan's making Kurt earn this one doesn't mean that he's favouring one side or another. It just means that Ryan wants to have a genuine crack at trying to hold on to first as long as possible here. It can be purely a personal motivation. But what it is doing is it is giving Noah Turra a little bit of a sniff, a little bit of a chance to try and close in on the 47. And
Smith is parking it at all the right spots here as well. He's realising fairly early and he needs to defend. He's parking it in all the right spots, but you're going to have a hard task keeping this up for such a long period of time against a multiple race winner, the only 2-time series champion of Supercars here in ASR, Kurt Stenberg. This is fantastic racing between the two of them. It's fair, it's hard, and the rookie is not cracking at the moment. He's doing everything he possibly can to keep that car behind. And all the meantime, Noah Tara is setting green sectors. He's just set a purple sector 2. He is a good 5/10 quicker in the last sector, in the second sector alone, than the two cars on screen at the moment. And he is coming at a rapid rate of knots. So in another lap, he will be there.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how that plays into it as well. Looking back, I can see in the background that Wayne Walker has cleared his battle with Anthony Green as well. Anthony Green's actually now got Will Devonish in his mirrors, so Will's been able to check away from Lewis, who in turn has Daniel Cox very stubbornly is not the word I really want, but I'm going to use it anyway, hanging on to 9th position, as is Foley still sitting in 10th.
Certainly is. So here's Green with his hands full of Will Devonish in the Lifeblood CRE number 1 as they go up to turn number 4. So there's a whole lot of activity here to keep an eye on. You've got a very, very fast Noah Turra, who is trying to make tracks on the leading 2 pair at the moment. Then you've got this little group that sort of is the next real proper group of cars. And look, Devonish looks down the inside of Green at turn 7. Got his nose up far enough, so Green had to leave him some room. And this is now the hallmark of these cars. Devonish has got a little bit more probably camber on that car, and he holds it right around the outside. That's a really good solid pass. And Devonish is going to open the door potentially for Lewis Wedding here to stick his nose in on the Autobahn number 10.
Absolutely.
Switcheroo. No, not quite. Feigned the switch. Wasn't close enough to pull it off.
Yeah, very much an open door presented there for Wedding. He just wasn't quite able to capitalise on it, but what it has meant is that Will Devonish is through. He doesn't have a chance to try and check away where possible. Green's got a corner or two where if he can get a good run, and Devonish is going to keep doing that and putting 2 wheels in the
Here we go.
Stuff.
Change for the lead. Change for the lead. Stenberg through all but briefly at turn 1, and he consolidates at 2, and he had to do that because Turra was coming at a vast rate of knots. Now Turra quickly down the inside. He's got to get the move done here at 3 and 4. Can he get it done? Yes, he does. Smith doesn't fight it. That's probably intelligent driving there, realising that there's no point holding up another quick car that could potentially go after the win.
Well, not only that, 2 cars, he's not going to catch Kurt by himself, but if Turra's up there battling Kurt, he potentially ran the pair of them back in. But yeah, very much a smart move there. He was already offline. He wasn't really able to come back across and put a fair fight into it. That said, he's not given up. He's still very much tacked onto the back of Turra, and if nothing else, Turra can also act as a bit of a windbreak even to try and pull him through the field as well. Yeah,
well, this will be the interesting part here. We need to see both Kurt and Noah sort of stabilise at the moment and just see what lap times they can produce. There's Walker in the back, a shot there. Is he clearing Burke? Yes, he is. He's actually cleared Burke now. So, don't discount this car because it was very quick in race trim in race 1. Actually marched out to quite a handy little lead and at 5.5 seconds and didn't surrender it when Kurt got clear of the chasing pack. He realised that he was coming and he managed to pick up his pace. So there is plenty of speed aboard this car here, so it might yet feature in a run for the podium here. Can he drag Lockie Burke in the pixelated auto sport car along with him? And Devonish is now starting to close it. Oh, check sideways action out of Lockie Burke in the background.
Yeah, just had a look at the lap times the last lap through. 24.5 for Stenberg, 24.8 for Noah Turra, although that was dealing with traffic in Ryan Smith, and 24.3 for Wayne Walker. So he's quicker, but not by enough right now.
No. A bit further back in the pack, Brendan Ross, it has not been his night from the highs of last year and everything he was going through. I think he misses his running mate, Brody.
Possibly, or just another one of those drivers not quite adapting to the Gen 3 platform. I have received messages during the race for Higo with all the work he's put into the cars. Very much, I don't think I very much down on the idea of how the cars look and all that, but very much not enjoying how the cars drive, at least tonight. But I mean, tonight's probably it's probably not the best introductory format to these cars. The preferred format is the hard tyre, which makes the car a little bit less enjoyable to drive. And you are at Winton. Winton's a great track. Winton is a bit tighter. We're definitely on the tighter end with the Supercars track spectrum. So it's a bit more of a goat track as opposed to, for example, Albert Park or a weathering next week where you can comfortably get too wide around the entire circuit.
Yeah, that's right. That's the thing there. Check out that. Wayne Walker, fastest lap, 23.5. So let's compare that to the leading two. So Stenberg did a 23.808 and Noah Tara 23.943. So it's only a tenth of a second difference. So the margin's stable at 1.2 seconds at the moment. And there's some strengths and weaknesses in different sectors. Noah was quicker last time around sector 3. He was quicker last time around in sector 2. And in sector 1, Kurt actually had a good margin on him. In actual fact, Kurt Stenberg's just gone purple in sector 1, fastest of anybody at the moment, over and actually a good 0.3 of a second quicker than Noah Tara. So Kurt's starting to put the hammer down a little bit at the moment out in front. Margins now at nearly 1.5 seconds. We'll get another read on the sector splits coming up in a few seconds' time. And Wayne Walker starting to catch Ryan Smith as well, so that will probably be a change of podium position in the next few seconds. Stenberg 29.994 in sector 1. Noah Tara slightly quicker, not by very much, only by about 0.04 of a second. So looks like Kurt's got the measure of the number 26 machine for the moment. And a bit of an awkward bobble there as well, caught the inside of the curb at turn 12. And that might upset Tara a bit. Yeah, look at that, margin balloons out by 0.3 of a second. Just had a bit of a poor run through that final corner.
Yeah, the next battle we're going to see, which will start to form in the next couple of corners, the way it's going right now, is that Walker has finally caught up to the back of Ryan Smith. He has been quicker than Smith, but about only as quick as Stenberg was quicker, about only as quick as Tara was quicker. And we know how long it took Stenberg to get past Ryan Smith, so this could be done in 2 corners, this could be done in 3 laps.
Yes, so we'll wait and see what happens here. And by the way, Rody, you'll be nominating the drivers that need to come up for broadcast interviews at the end of the night. Remember, it's a triple-header format, so we don't necessarily bring up first, seconds and thirds because of how things go, because it is quite a compact night. So it will be drivers of our selection. We'll probably grab the round winner and a couple of others as well to come along and have a little bit of a chat. So, of course, he's got to think about who he's going to invite up as soon as the racing is over. And where does Walker strike? Where's he stronger, Rody? At the moment, I'm just looking at it here, and he's got advantages all over the shop. I think the advantage he probably has in Sector 1 at the moment. So if he's going to pull anything, I'd say it's probably going to be down into 3 and 4, or maybe into turn 1 and 2. But he seems to have a distinct pace advantage at the moment in Sector 1.
I mean, something we could do actually, I was just reading a message earlier from Steve Burke on the chat. Interesting to have a look at an onboard for Walker as he tries to get this past done to see where he's actually picking up those lines differently, because these cars do behave a little bit differently to the existing cars. They brake a little bit earlier, they turn in a little bit less, and they're a bit more of a point squirt car to last year's cars. So good opportunity to pick up exactly where the differences lie around a track like that.
Yeah, well, let's pick him up now. So he's coming out of turn number 4, heading up to turn number 5. And, I mean, you can see the wheel just on the side there. He's trying to be as smooth as possible, just little trims of the wheel, not trying to do too much. Oh, safety car. That's an interesting. So that freezes the field. First safety car of the season. And who does it concern? That's the big question.
I think Tim Redmond.
Possibly. Yeah, Tim Redmond down the field at the moment.
No, Dane
Liccardo. Okay, so we need to get our eyes on this one a little bit and just sort of understand what's gone on here. Oh, actually, there's a bit more to the story than this, I think, Rody. So I'll fill you in a few seconds once I get the graphic right. We know exactly what's going on here. So over to the Paint Doctor replay and let's have a look at what happens here. So it actually starts with Daniel Cox. So here we go. Cox loses it into turn number 3 in the middle of the road. There goes Foley, and then Liccardo really sort of didn't have much time to react. So that's what happened there. So first safety car of the season through some contact, and this will reset the field. So now, does anybody gamble on a soft tyre?
So I've already seen Murrell in the lane. He's unfortunately going to go a lap down, so he might be lucky.
Walker's gone to second, so there have been takers. There's been takers on pit lane. So Ryan Smith,
Stenberg stayed out, Walker stayed out, but I'm pretty sure I've seen one of their CS cars in the lane, and there's a big. Everybody in the mid pack's also coming in pretty much.
Yeah, I think if you're down the field, you've got nothing to lose. You throw the soft on and you go. If you're up the top end, you've made your bed, you've got to lie in it now. So This is really interesting here. So Tara out, Smith will be out, Devonish will be out on the soft tyre, and oh god, there's a bit of action in the back there with one of the PBF cars coming in. That was Phil Boak. He was down the order anyway. But yeah, if you're a soft tyre runner, if you're a hard tyre runner, you've got to come in and get that happening. Can see Alex Kiedis is not going to take the bait. He was down the field. He's going to just try and gain as many spots back as he can here, get back to almost where he started. He's going to stay on the hard tyre. I mean, the hard tyre will still be a pretty handy tyre. That won't be the issue. It'll just be the fact that the soft is going to be so much better for however long it takes to get everybody back together. Now, of course, there is the wave around procedure that we need to take a look at here, just depending on where everybody has landed in all of this moving and shaking and people going into pit lane. The one that I'm interested in looking in is where is Scott Murrell, because he's actually tucked in here behind Rory Collins. So Collins is up to 7th, having not taken the bait going into the lane. And is Murrell still there? Yes, he is. So he's actually going to be a lap traffic situation. He might get the lucky dog. That's what we need to understand here. If he's in a position to get the lucky dog, the game will give it to him. This isn't like Bathurst where the wave around procedure happens of everybody that is a lap down gets it back. We allow the game to award the lucky dog. The only stipulations are that when it comes to waiver rounds in the main game races, that if you are a lap traffic and you're caught between the safety car and the race leader, you are instructed to pass the safety car. So in this case, Murrell unfortunately is buried in the pack, so unless the game gives him the lucky dog, he is staying right where he is.
Yeah, so what this has crucially done is it's actually affected a few drivers in this by virtue of where they came into the pits, which has resulted in them being a lap down. So the last very, very lucky driver, not unlike, I think it was me actually in one of the races last week, was Tim Redmond, who had to race the safety car and actually came out behind the safety car but ahead of Kurt Stenberg. So he got let through out of turn 2. But he is the last car on the lead lap. So the cars go down a lap. Scott Murrell, who we were just talking about. Behind him then is Phil Boak, Pete Thrower, Daniel Cox and Dane Liccardo. So that takes those guys out of that fight. And just to finish the title, to finish the discussion on Cam Rutledge, he did confirm in the chat earlier that he changed the his engine.
Yes, so that's what I said. It only made it a couple of 100 metres, so that'll be probably the old money shift, I would say. That's
Quite
caused
possibly
the problem there. Now, the important thing here is how long does the safety car stay out? So the longer it stays out, the more beneficial it is for this man on screen here, Kurt Stenberg, because it's less laps for the number 217 of Wayne Walker to attack behind. So we need to see where the safety car is in. Oh, it's actually in, so it's a very short hold. So that's not good news for him. So that means 4-lap sprint. Some drivers on soft tyres that have pitted, they're down the order. Some drivers on hard tyres, they're at the front of the field. So let's see what goes on here. Let's get this going.
So yeah, good start from Kurt Stenberg ahead of Wayne Walker. So a little bit of moving in the back, and safety car again.
Yes, safety car has been called again. So I'm not quite sure what all that was about.
Steve Warwick is limping down the main straight, so I suspect perhaps...
he's got some sort of an issue there, I think.
Perhaps concertina on the restart.
Yeah, something's gone wrong there. He's actually pulled that car over, and I think maybe he has... there's some nose-to-tail contact going on here down the straight.
Cars involved there.
So cars that were catching up to the safety car, and they were catching the queue, and is this someone not paying attention? Oh, that's... Who was that? Was that Foley? Yeah, that was Boak. Boak into Higginson, into Warwick, and Ryan Smith. Oh, God, he was unlucky. He had a good run. He was so unlucky out of all of that. And that's a problem because everybody was racing to catch up to the safety car and be ready to be in position. And unfortunately, they got caught out. So that does unfortunately trigger another safety car. So that is that's a break for Kurt Stenberg there, because he would have had to defend for 4 laps. Now he's got to defend for probably no more than 2, depending on what happens with the safety car. Now, if the safety car goes for a little bit longer than anticipated, then we go into overtime. So
yeah, and that'll be an interesting question there on
fuel.
I don't think anyone's going to be trying to run marginal on fuel, but very much a possibility. So yeah, both into the pit lane there. He was one of the cars involved with that. Higginson stayed out. and I don't remember who the third car who was involved. There might have been
Smith.
Ryan Smith. He stayed out as well. Yeah, potential option depending on how the safety car goes as well for a wave round. One other thing it has picked up as well, and I'm just making mention of this for you to pick up on, as I think
Peter Thrower ended up with a...
Yeah, I was about to say with that. I think Warwick's got a puncture or something though, because he's travelling very slowly through the top section of the track.
Yeah, he's limping home, and I think that's probably he's probably limping home just to try and I guess get the car repaired so they can at least bring home some points. So yeah, he's at the back end of the field here, and yeah, probably got either a puncture or a bit of damage because yeah, it's not. She's probably not steering straight. I think more so than a puncture. I don't think the car's actually steering straight.
Yeah, I'd say so actually. Yeah, it's going to be pretty heavy something hand down the way that car's. And yeah, Steve just playing safe heading into the pit lane. He'll more than likely, well, he'll drop from the lead lap just by pitting. Yep. But it depends on how long he'll be in the lane as to how much he loses from there. He's spin on the entry. But yeah, that car, the suspension in that car is not right. Something is definitely not right.
That's right. Now, in all of this, have a look what's happened to Brent Foley. He's actually moved his way up to 5th place after all of that. So he's stayed out of trouble for most of the night, apart from a little off-track excursion in, I think it was race number 1. Lewis Weddings made his way up to 4th place. So what do we say about lead pixel SimSport drivers in ASR? Yeah? Where are we going with this? Yeah, it's no longer a field filler, Lewis.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, yeah, for field filler, and I saw Rossi, I think first one in the chat tonight, talking all about, oh yeah, second last again. No, Rossi, I remember you guys throwing this at me the first year. You guys were teaming up and it didn't happen then. It's not happening this year. Definitely some strong contenders in the teams from what we've seen so far tonight. Look, you need to have 2 cars filled for as many rounds as possible. But I don't think I was going to be second last in the teams. But yeah, really good run for Wedding, really good run for Foley, just getting out of trouble for tracking, and because it didn't really change much the safety. Well, the race was green for about 100 metres. The lead car on softs is Noah Tara in 11th.
Yes. Now, importantly,
and he's going to get 1 lap.
Yes. Well, depending on what.
Regardless when we go green, he's going to get 1 lap.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Now, just keeping an eye on things here, Steve Warwick has unfortunately retired, so that's 2 retirements in this race. So Cam Rutledge with the engine, Steve Warwick, innocent victim in that one. You know, catching up, doing the right thing, trying to catch up to the back of the safety car, and a bit of nose-to-tail action. I think they're just trying to anticipate the restart, which unfortunately didn't go according to plan.
Yeah, it's an awkward juggle, and from where they were pitting, from where they came out on track, using the gauge of where I was when I was doing the same thing in Dev Series, when you caught the train perfectly, you caught the train perfectly. And then there was the juggle that you were approaching the back of the train about 100 k's faster than the back of the train was going, and you had to juggle that you want to take an advantage, but you can't pass the car before the line, which will be exactly what Steve will have done. He will have backed off a little bit.
Oh, there's more of it. There's more of it there as drivers are not paying attention. Here you go, lock the brakes again, lock down the 00 Higginson Media Motorsport Mustang, and Dane Liccardo was just not paying attention and went straight to the rear bumper of the number 00. And safety car going around again. So we are now officially into overtime. Yeah, so
we could almost do the RX thing, get a sponsor in for overtime, but we don't tend to run into those because we tend to get things pretty clean. But
Control Solutions guys will be rubbing their hands together, I think, looking at the fact that it's overtime for them, because that's the actually probably the electricians probably as well, because they love a bit of overtime as well. Plenty of money to be made there in the real world. Now, importantly, there's going to be a really hard sprint here between Stenberg and Wayne Walker out in front whenever this happens to resume. Soft tyre runners now, they've basically gambled and lost, unfortunately, because they probably made the smart call to go in and grab a little bit of tyre, but the second accident, unfortunately, has rendered their positions in the field basically null and void. They're going to have a very hard time trying to make heads or tails of anything in the next few moments.
Yeah, it's interesting actually with one overtime, because what it has meant is that Luke Rosella can see some of tonight's racing. His power's just come back, so...
He would have had a mobile phone, I would have thought anyway, but you want to keep the power in the battery.
Quite possibly, but he is at least probably back on his PC now, so just in time to catch the end of the third race. So good thing that Lewis Wedding was available to jump in to bring up some crucial teams points. Going to see if the safety car's coming in this lap.
We're keeping an eye on, and Stenberg's backing off from the safety car, so I would say yes, we are going live this time around. It'll be a one-lap dash to conclude race number 3 and the round here for round number 1 of ASR Supercars 2024, the Gen 3 era at Winton. 1 win to Walker tonight, 1 win to Stenberg tonight. Who's going to get the chocky bickies and walk away with the round honours? Here we go. So Stenberg heads it off quite nicely down and walk into turn number 1. Walker sits there quite smartly behind and just pays a bit of attention here. Oh, there's a bit of shortcutting in the back going on. Brendan Ross, there's Murrell into the wall. He's lost a tyre, so he's out of business. And back to the front we go. So that was a bit of an angry pack there in the back of the field. So Murrell unfortunately becomes the third DNF as Stenberg heads them up towards turn 5. Walker not quite close enough here. And I think maybe he might be content just to sit here, maybe wait till the last couple of corners. I would suggest you probably need to go a little bit earlier here. Green's got his hands full with Lewis Wedding at the moment for third place. So that's just the back of shot there. Walker starting to go to work here on the rear bumper of the number 47 in Kurt Stenberg. Go on board, heading down to the final corner. Not close enough for a stab under brakes here. Going to be relying on a mistake from the Anticol Autosport Camaro. There it is. There's a little bit of a loose moment there going through turn number 10. This will be the opportunity here. He needs to seize it. Stenberg defends it and defends it well. And down the inside. Oh, he's made a mistake on the second to last corner, but it's not quite costly enough. Walker can't do anything about it. And Stenberg will pick up 2 wins on the night. That'll be round honours for Kurt Stenberg. And he had to work hard there at the back end of it. Just in the last couple of corners, it could have gone a little bit the wrong way with a lock brake here or a lock brake there. But he had fistfuls of the Camaro in the last couple of corners. Just managed to hold off the advances of the Wayne's World Motorsport machine.
Yeah, brilliant run there from the pair of them actually to get home in first and second to keep themselves clear of the pack behind. Next best from them then was Anthony Green, who's probably at risk of a podium for the round the way he's going. Lewis Wedding in fourth, good run from him and Brenton Foley. The scrap was really from their back. Lockie Burke held on for sixth. Rory Collins, again, just quiet running. Was picked up seventh in all that. Leonard Grossel had his hands full with Noah Tara right at the end there. Had put a couple of smart moves there, had the elbows out to keep on, held on to 8th spot. So the best that a soft runner could do at the end there was 9th in Noah Tara. And Curtis Egmanis on the hards holding out for 10th.
So he got up to 10th place and all of that. Will Devenish down to 11th now. He was one of the ones that stopped for a soft compound as well, so he got burnt by that decision along with a couple of other drivers. Brendan Ross gets home in 12th. There's a few celebrations going on at the minute. They'll have to be pretty careful they don't impede anybody else. Ryan Smith, he was the unlucky one in all of that after being turfed out in that. He made the decision to go the soft tyre, but then he was caught out in that start line restart issue with a few drivers that nose to tailed on it all. Redmond for 14th, and then Darren Lockman 15th. And a quiet night for him. Lockie Lock 16th, and then Alex Kidder 17th. Higginson, Dane Liccardo and Daniel Cox with 18th, 19th, 20th. And Peter Thrower and Phil Boak were the last ones that got home in all of that. Scott Murrell we saw, unfortunately, in the fence at turn number 2 and 3. So unfortunately for him, that doesn't yield any points for this round, or for this race rather, because not only do you need to do the 80%, you do need to be a classified finisher to get the points. So that's unfortunately over and done with for him. Steve Warwick, he was also an unfortunate victim in that last couple of in that last restart procedure as well, and ended up in the fence with pretty nasty damage. And Cam Rutledge popped the engine at the beginning of the race. So a couple of non-finishes from that one. Overall though, Rhodey, a successful night for ASR, debuting the Gen 3 automobiles. So now the hard decision is over to you as to who we are going to pick to bring up for broadcast interviews, and you're going to need to let me know because I do need to prepare for a couple of things here. So I take it you're probably going to be furiously pinging a whole bunch of people in the Discord to work out who you want.
Yep, I will be doing that momentarily. I'm just getting enough of the points in that we have a rough idea based on the big finishes where everyone's sitting. But yeah, I will go and see if the game will let me alt tab without crashing on me.
Well,
And
it doesn't make a difference anyway because the night is
at this
over.
point, yeah, at this point it doesn't make much of a difference. But yeah, we're gonna probably end up grabbing Kurt Stenberg and Wayne Walker as our 2 race winners of tonight. I'm gonna probably
Kurt Stenberg leads the championship as well, so I think
and
it's
that
probably
yep.
fitting that we grab him for this one, and yes, probably Wayne Walker for his win in race number 1 as well, being the first Gen 3 winner, and then we might grab a couple more people after that as well. So yep, I can see a few drivers are starting to make an appearance for us, and we'll have them all but momentarily in the next few moments or so, as the night comes to a conclusion. And I think we probably will, while you start to round up everybody, Rody, we might actually head over to our podium area with thanks to Beyond Electrical, and they're again very grateful to have them on board as sponsors for this year. They are sponsoring the podium yet again. So we'll have a little chat, I think, with Kurt Stenberg, Rody.
We will. So Kurt Stenberg, welcome back to the grid in a full-time capacity. Obviously, last year for you was just an Enduro Cup run, but what's your thoughts in Gen 3?
Well, pretty happy with the result. We went out and we got 2 wins. Race 1, we didn't quite have the pace, but I think we maximised what we could do out there, and, we're back.
Absolutely, yeah. So second in race 1, and then took the best run of those runners to get back through the grid into race to win race number 2 and then pick up race number 3. What's your thoughts been on the change in how the cars have driven compared to last year?
Well, they drive like a front end loader. There's just understeer central, but did a bit of work, tuned the car, got that dialed out of as much as I can. There's not much you can do, but worked on that. Fair few other adjustments, and we sent it. So I think we come up with something good. We just tried every value and got something that worked. So a bit of a big change from last year, a big swing at the kitchen sink on setup, but it felt pretty good. I just got to work out what's going on in the first 2 laps because I got no pace until about lap 2, 3. So I don't know if it's tyre pressures or what the go is, but car's pretty good from then on in. So it's good for tyre life.
Absolutely. Well, you lead the points with a near clean sweep, only 8 points off of the perfect number. Heading in to Albert Park in 2 weeks' time, how do you think these cars are going to handle there?
I reckon they're going to understeer everywhere, especially at the high speed corners, but that's all right. We'll just have a crack at it. We'll see how we go. I like Albert Park. It's a good track. I think we'll go well. So we'll bring the privateer machine back out, and hopefully we're not parked in the support pits at the next event. So hopefully we've got a garage.
Yeah, you make a good point. I think we do have, unlike real life, we do actually have access to the pit lane this year, and we do actually treat the supercars as a headline category. But Kurt Stenberg, great work tonight on your return to full-time competition, and we'll catch you in a few weeks' time at Albert Park.
No worries. Thanks, guys. Thanks for the privilege.
Alrighty, the coming off of one race last year at Adelaide, or one round at Adelaide, Wayne Walker stepped into a full-time seat this season, and maybe not quite a perfect run, but still to come out of the night second in the point standings in your first race of the year, that's a pretty good run, Wayne.
Yeah, I couldn't have really hoped for a much better start. Winning race 1, got a bit beat up in race 2, but still managed to work my way back up to a decent starting position. And then the third race, I think when the safety car came out and a few in front pitted, sort of gave me a couple of positions, and I was able to get second behind Kurt. So yeah, it was pretty good night, I think.
Absolutely. I think your only sort of hiccup was you weren't quite as adept as the cars around you in getting through the field in race 2. Was that just down to a lack of experience around the drivers up there, or just taking it carefully?
I was trying to take it careful, but I don't know, a few times I had cars come up the inside when I didn't think there was really room to, but they still did, and that sort of pushed me back a little bit. But yeah, it's that's the way it goes sometimes.
All good. Well, yeah, to come in as a rookie and a wild card and be walking away second in the standings is pretty good for the first round. What's your thoughts on Albert Park?
Yeah, I don't mind that track. I think these cars are going to be pretty wild around there. I think pretty loose and understeer and oversteer on throttle. Yeah, just it's going to be wild, I think.
Absolutely. Well, good work tonight, and we will also be catching you in a few weeks' time at Albert Park.
Thank you.
Alrighty, and moving down to third in the standings after the first round, and didn't expect this to be a Super 2 runner, but Anthony Green, how's that P word looking?
Next question, please. We're not talking about that at all.
Alrighty, well, your only major blemish, although it's hard to say 3 top 10s is anywhere of a blemish for a Super 2 runner, but 8th in the first race maybe wasn't quite on the money, but to pick up 2/3 in race 2 and 3, it's a pretty good run.
I mean, I kind of got the C's part of me a little bit there. You have to have a lot go your way here. I got a bit lucky with a lot of things, and yeah, like race 1 was very. I think I made one mistake, lost 3 spots from it, and just tried to hold on from there. And yeah, like it's just all about not making any mistakes and just basically being like, how lucky are you?
Absolutely. Well, fair enough. Having driven the 2 cars back to back now, driven Super 2 here a week prior, and now Supercars here tonight. What's your preference? What's your preferred car of the 2?
It depends. The Gen 2 cars doesn't try and kill you. The best way to describe it, like it won't. You just have better drive. It feels more like a refined race car. While with these Gen 3 cars, once you sort of get your head sort of around them, they're actually a lot of fun to drive because you kind of don't know how well you're going to go on the lap. It could be you have to sort of underdrive in some areas to be prepared to catch it if you. The difference between underdriving and overdriving is so little in these that it makes it a lot more entertaining.
Absolutely. That's fair enough. Well, what's your thoughts coming into Albert Park, given that you'll be there in a week's time?
Just do more of the same, I guess. Just these cars are definitely going to be a lot of fun around there. They're going to be interesting. I'm curious to see how they go in the long sweeper sort of corners, more flowing sort of stuff. And the Gen 2 car, we know already what it's going to do there. So.
Oh, good. Well, great work tonight, Tony, and we will catch you in a few weeks' time at Albert Park.
Awesome. Thank you.
Alrighty, moving on now to the defending champion, Will Devonish. And Will, not quite the way you wanted to start your championship defense off.
I wouldn't say that. I had a lot of fun tonight, so it was a good night and a lot of banter in the team chat. So look, could have done better, but yeah, I'm not really upset about tonight. I thought it was a great first track for the cars. Challenging track, challenging car, and yeah, I think we're all pretty satisfied we were able to finish the races.
Fair enough. Well, what was your outlook on the night's racing?
So taking this year a little less seriously, just wanted to go out there and have some fun. And yeah, I think that's what we did. It's nice having Noah up front there with us, and sort of moving forward through the whole pack. So yeah, I'm looking forward to more of that throughout the year.
Fair enough. As you mentioned, Noah's doing a pretty good job tonight, and it actually comes out of tonight as the fastest of the CRE drivers. Do you see that being something that's going to stick for the rest of the year, or are you planning on reining him back in at some point?
Noah's putting in a ton of practice. Probably not putting in as much as I'm starting to commit a little bit more to the dev team we've got. So he's putting in a ton of practice, so I imagine he's going to be winning some races this year, which I'm really looking forward to.
Fair enough. And as with the others, what's your thoughts coming into Albert Park?
I really like Albert Park, so I'm looking forward to it. We went through a lot of setups for Winton, and I think we've probably already found something that would work really well there. So I think we're on the front foot for the track. And in terms of the track itself, it's actually a really lovely track and always sort of produces pretty close racing. Weirdly enough, given how big the track is, it produces really close racing, so I'm looking forward to it.
Fair enough. Well, good work tonight, Will. The important thing was you had fun, and that's really all we can ask for out of our drivers. And we'll catch you in a few weeks' time at Albert Park.
Thank you.
And finally, a driver who 6 months ago looked at things and thought he wasn't quick enough to be on the grid. And Lewis Wedding, I think you're quick enough now.
I'd strongly disagree. I'll be perfectly honest. Everybody that qualified below me, in qualifying should probably have a hard look at themselves, because I'd not done any longer than 3 laps consecutively in practice, and I'd only done about 15. So, I don't know what people are doing out there in qualifying. That is, in the race, it was a different story.
I mean, it is entirely possible that you found a supercar that falls into your hand a little better than the last couple of years have been, rather than everybody else isn't trying as hard. But look, we'll leave the door open for both options. But yeah, moving into the races, still a good run there with 2 top 5s and an 8th in race 2.
Yeah, obviously the quali lap I put together, I was sort of obviously happy with, but I was completely unsure how the race car would be. The times I was doing in practice weren't any slower or really faster than what I was able to manage in the race, which I guess is okay. But the tyres for us, after sort of halfway, everyone else was sort of going faster, and we were sort of just staying the same speed. So it was nice. The first race was good, where I could sort of run my own race a bit with some of the faster guys, Will and Tim and stuff like that behind me. Had to sort of battle their way through early on, so I was able to sort of race my own race for a good result. And then second race is just I might as well have been. I think I have as many holes on the old Camaro as what a golf ball does, with little speed dints and everything like that, because I was being hit everywhere. And then race 3 is just about trying to avoid some of the drama. I knew I had some 1 or 2 guys behind me that were probably a little bit quicker, and there was also maybe I could get a spot or 2 in the race. But thankfully everybody pitted with the safety car. I don't know why there wasn't enough laps to really make up that time, but it's just a shame that it always seems to be that whenever I'm in one of these good positions in a race, that someone else in front of me can't have an off or anything like that, where it seems to be where I'm the one getting hit off while in a podium position. But still, I mean, I wasn't meant to be racing tonight, and it's just great points for the team. And I'd like to thank Falcon for jumping on board and putting enough money to put a sticker on the car.
It's good to see that winning Teams Championship last year is starting to help you guys out in the long term. But Lewis Wedding, just finally quickly, your thoughts coming into Albert Park. I know you're not planning on racing as a reserve driver, but you obviously be broadcasting Dev Series then next week.
Yeah, look, obviously it's the older layout for those people that don't know. It's not the current modern day post 2021 22 spec, but it's going to be intriguing, because I've done maybe 1 or 2 laps just to check some stuff for the what's going out. I haven't done any actual practice or anything, and I don't intend to race, but it's going to be interesting because a lot of the faster corners are going to lead to a lot of understeer and front tire scrub, but it's also probably going to lead the rears to maybe even cook just a little bit as well, because you're going to try and go aggressive with roll bars and get the front to sort of sit a little bit lower and the rear a bit higher to have some drag, or not drag, some rake. So it's going to be interesting. Generally, we've had pretty good racing there in the past. I know we're going a different format this time, but it's hard to call. Tyres are going to be, again, fairly important, but I expect it to be very similar to what we had here at Winton, where people are just going to qualify on the soft and then probably just race on the hard, unless it's a hard tyre only round. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think, it's going to be intriguing because there will be more tyre wear and it is a different format. So people are going to have to play it a bit different. And the setup that you have here isn't really going to be as helpful because the corners are a lot different. You're carrying a lot more speed into them and you're not braking as heavily into each one of them. So my biggest weakness in these cars is definitely the slower stuff because I was actually the fastest car in the first sector and then would just get blown away everywhere else. So I probably would be okay at Albert Park, but I have no intention of racing. But I reckon it might throw a curveball to some of the guys who are a little bit quicker here, where you've done all this work here for the shorter corners, but for the longer ones with aero required, it's going to take a more delicate touch to not completely melt some of the tyres. So it's going to be interesting.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for your thoughts on that one, Lewis. And as you mentioned, you are a reserve driver, so ideally we're not going to see you in 2 weeks' time at Albert Park. We have nothing else. All the viewers can catch the Dev Series Round 2 on your channel, Loose Sim Network, in a week's time. And Lewis, hopefully we'll chat to you again some point throughout the season.
Hopefully it's with some better results. And thanks again for the setup work with Rossi and Luke and Sir Falcon. And hopefully Zach and Luke are back out there at Albert Park. See you next time.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Lewis. That has been the interviews after round 1.
Thanks very much, Rhodey. As always, great job with picking and choosing the guys to come up and for having all those questions prepared. I know it's something that I have to have prepared whenever I do some of the stuff in the real world, and something I'll probably be doing in a week's time, actually, when I'm actually ironically at Winton, as I was saying, for the Victorian State Racing Championships up there. But moving forward, Albert Park for the development series next week and Supercars the week after. One thing that we do want to make mention, and Kurt Stenberg touched on it, about being in a support paddock rather than a garage. Actually, wanted to be in a garage rather than a support paddock. One little thing we have actually done for Albert Park, which you will see next week and the week after, is the supercar pits have actually been opened for Albert Park for the first time. We've always run in the past with using the Formula 1 pit entry because we normally haven't had the numbers really to worry about it. And given the explosion and in the development series, the fact that it's a full grid of 34 cars over there, we're effectively full at 29 to 30 cars in the supercars. We actually have had no choice but to make a few modifications to the track to open up the supercars pit entry, put out some new pit booms and pit box markings, and block off the Formula 1 pit entrance so people can't actually use it. So that will be a change that you will see. So everybody will have their own garage and their pit bays as well for team cars. So keep an eye out for that because it is quite a long pit transit at Albert Park, 40 kilometres an hour. It's an eternity with given how long the length of that pit lane is. But for now, everybody, that was the debut of the Gen 3 Supercars for ASR. We hope you enjoyed watching it, and if you're a driver watching this back, we hope you guys enjoy the show that you put on. So until next time, which will be in 2 weeks at Albert Park, please drive safely, and we'll see you then. Bye for now.